Victoria Hale stood on the edge of the balcony, 40 stories above the city that bore her family's name, wondering if anyone would notice if she just disappeared. Inside, 2,000 people celebrated her company's success. Out here, she couldn't remember the last time she'd felt anything real. Then she heard his voice, rough, tired, completely unimpressed by the glittering world behind the glass. "I just want to go home and make pancakes with my daughter," the man said into his phone. And for the first time in years, Victoria felt something crack open in her chest. This is their story. A CEO who had everything and a widowed father who had what mattered most. Watch until the end to see how one conversation changed 2 lives forever. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The Innovation Summit occupied 3 floors of the Grandview Hotel, each level more exclusive than the last. The ground floor held the exhibition hall where startups displayed technologies that promised to change the world. The second floor hosted the main ballroom, where 1,500 guests networked over champagne and canapes. The third floor, accessible only by private elevator, belonged to the donors and board members whose checkbooks made innovation possible. Victoria Hale had access to all 3 floors. She belonged on none of them. She stood now on a balcony jutting from the 3rd floor lounge, her champagne untouched on the stone railing. The November wind cut through her burgundy dress, but she welcomed the cold. Inside, Walter Brennan from Brennan Capital was telling anyone who'd listen about his latest acquisition. Margaret Chen was holding court near the bar, her laughter sharp enough to carry through the glass. Victoria's own board members circled the room like sharks, smiling their careful smiles, calculating their next moves. 15 years ago, her father had brought her to this same summit. She'd been 23, fresh from Stanford, burning with ideas about sustainable technology and corporate responsibility. David Hale had introduced her to everyone who mattered, his hand steady on her shoulder, his pride evident in every word. "This is Victoria," he'd said over and over. "She's going to change everything." He'd been dead for 8 years now. Heart attack at his desk, surrounded by quarterly reports and half-drunk coffee. And Victoria had changed everything, just like he'd predicted. Hale Technologies had tripled in size under her leadership. Their clean energy division had revolutionized solar panel efficiency. Their medical technology subsidiary held patents that saved thousands of lives annually. But her father had never mentioned how lonely success would be. "Yes, I know," a male voice said behind her, out of sight around the balcony's corner. "I understand it's an honor, but it's Saturday night, Mom, and I promised Lily I'd be home for bedtime." Victoria turned slightly, not quite looking, not quite leaving. The voice belonged to someone who clearly didn't want to be overheard, but the balcony's architecture carried sound in strange ways. "I know you think this is good for my career," the man continued. His voice held a particular kind of exhaustion Victoria recognized, the bone-deep weariness of someone who'd been managing expectations all day. "But I install heating and cooling systems. I don't need to network with tech billionaires to do my job well." A pause. "Mom, I appreciate you watching her. I do. But she's 6 years old and her dad promised her Saturday pancakes in a movie. Instead, I'm at a party where the appetizers cost more than my weekly grocery bill, making small talk with people who look through me like I'm invisible." Victoria found herself holding her breath, waiting for whatever came next. "I miss her too much," the man said, and something in his voice cracked. "Every minute away from her feels like I'm failing her, like I'm failing Emma." Another pause, longer this time. "I know Emma's gone. You don't have to remind me. But Lily needs consistency, and I promised her pancakes shaped like butterflies. And I'm standing here in a borrowed suit feeling like a fraud when I could be home being her dad." Victoria set her champagne down carefully, the crystal silent against stone. She shouldn't be listening to this. She should slip back inside, return to the careful choreography of wealth and influence. But something about the rawness in this stranger's voice had hooked into her chest and wouldn't let go. "Fine," the man said. "1 more hour. But tell Lily I love her, okay? Tell her Daddy's bringing home the fancy cookies from the dessert table, the ones with the gold on top." Victoria heard him end the call, followed by a long exhale that sounded like surrender. "You can come around the corner," he said. "I know you're there. These balconies aren't exactly designed for privacy." Heat flooded Victoria's face, an unfamiliar sensation. She couldn't remember the last time she'd been caught off guard, the last time she'd felt genuinely embarrassed. She stepped around the corner and found herself face to face with a man who looked as out of place at this summit as she felt. He was probably in his early 30s, tall and lean, wearing a navy suit that fit well enough but lacked the custom tailoring that marked money. His dark hair needed a trim, and his tie was slightly crooked. But his eyes, brown and direct and carrying their own particular weight, met hers without the usual calculation she saw in people's faces. "I'm sorry," Victoria said. "I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I came out here to escape, and then you were on the phone, and I didn't want to interrupt." "It's okay." He straightened his tie, a self-conscious gesture that somehow made him more human. "I'm Daniel Carter. I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to be on this floor, but the elevator operator assumed I belonged here, and I didn't correct him." "Victoria Hale." She extended her hand, watching for the moment of recognition. It came, but not the way it usually did. Daniel's eyebrows rose slightly, and he shook her hand with a grip that was firm but not performative. "The Victoria Hale," he said. "Your face is on the banner in the lobby. Visionary leadership for a sustainable future." Marketing wrote that tagline. I would have chosen something less grandiose. What would you have chosen? The question caught her off guard. People didn't ask her what she'd choose. They told her what she should want, what she should value, how she should position herself for maximum impact. "Maybe just trying to do better," Victoria said. Daniel smiled, and it transformed his entire face. That's significantly more honest than most corporate messaging. Honesty doesn't usually poll well with stakeholders. Neither does admitting you'd rather be making pancakes with your daughter, but here we are. Victoria found herself smiling back. "I heard that part. The butterfly pancakes. Lily's favorite. She says butterflies are magic because they start as caterpillars and become something beautiful, which is a pretty solid philosophy for a 6-year-old. Daniel's expression softened when he talked about his daughter, the exhaustion in his eyes momentarily replaced by something that looked like grace. Though right now she's probably asleep on my mom's couch, waiting for her dad to come home from the fancy party. "Why did you come if you didn't want to?" Daniel leaned against the railing, his gaze moving to the city lights below. "My boss gave me the ticket, said it would be good for me to see how the other half lives, to understand the clients we serve. He meant well, but everyone in there is networking or deal-making or performing success, and I'm just a guy who fixes air conditioning units and wants to read bedtime stories to his kid. Nothing wrong with that. Tell that to the 3 people who've already asked me what I do, then found an excuse to talk to someone else the second I said HVAC technician." Victoria knew exactly which 3 people he meant. She'd watched that particular social choreography 1,000 times. The polite interest that died the moment someone revealed they weren't worth the networking effort. "I'm sorry," she said. "People can be thoughtless." "It's not about me. I know what I do matters. Every building in this city needs climate control. Every hospital, every school, every home. I keep people comfortable and safe. But nobody at a party like this wants to hear about refrigerant systems or ductwork efficiency." He turned to look at her directly. "Which is why I'm out here talking to you instead of in there pretending to care about cryptocurrency and disruption strategies. I should probably admit I don't care about cryptocurrency either. You're a tech CEO. Aren't you supposed to be passionate about emerging technologies?" "I'm passionate about solar efficiency and reducing carbon emissions. I'm passionate about medical devices that actually save lives instead of just generating profit. But most of the technologies being celebrated in there?" Victoria gestured toward the glass doors. "They're solutions looking for problems, designed to attract venture capital rather than serve actual human needs." Daniel studied her for a long moment. "That's a pretty revolutionary thing for the keynote speaker to say." "I didn't say it in my keynote. I said all the expected things about innovation and market opportunities and sustainable growth. But out here, where nobody's recording?" She met his eyes. "Out here, I can tell the truth." "Which is?" "I'm tired. I'm lonely. I run a company my father built, and I'm good at it. But some days I wonder if I'm actually doing anything that matters. I give speeches about changing the world while sitting in boardrooms where the only thing that really changes is the quarterly profit margin." The words came out before Victoria could stop them. She never talked like this. Not to her board, not to her executive team, not to the carefully vetted journalist who interviewed her. She'd learned early that vulnerability was weakness, that CEOs who admitted doubt didn't last long in positions of power. But something about this man on the balcony, this widowed father who'd rather be making pancakes than networking, made her want to be honest. "I'm sorry," Victoria said. "That was inappropriate. You don't need to hear about my existential crisis." "Why not? I just shared mine about being a fraud in a borrowed suit." "It's not borrowed. I can tell by the fit." "You're right. I bought it last year for Emma's memorial service. Only worn it twice since then. Once for a job interview I didn't get, and now for a party I don't belong at." Daniel's voice remained steady, but Victoria heard the weight beneath the words. "So we're both wearing our uncomfortable truths tonight. How long has it been? Since Emma?" 2 years? 3 months? 16 days. He said it automatically, the way someone might recite a phone number they'd dialed too many times. "Car accident. Black ice on the highway. She was coming home from a late shift at the hospital. She was a nurse. Pediatric ICU. "I'm so sorry. Everyone says that, and I appreciate it. I do. But sorry doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring her back. It doesn't make Lily stop asking when mommy's coming home. It just means people acknowledge that my life broke in half, and I'm doing my best with the pieces." Victoria had attended more memorial services than she could count. She'd sent flowers, made donations in people's names, offered the appropriate condolences, but she'd never actually sat with someone's grief like this, unfiltered and immediate. "How do you do it?" she asked. "The best with the pieces. Badly most days. I burn dinner. I forget to sign permission slips. I fall asleep during bedtime stories because I've been working since 6 in the morning. But Lily still smiles when I pick her up from school. She still wants me to braid her hair even though I'm terrible at it. She still thinks I'm magic when I fix her broken toys with duct tape and determination." Daniel's expression softened again. "So I keep showing up. I keep trying. Because she deserves a dad who doesn't give up, even when everything feels impossible. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. She's the only thing that makes sense anymore." They stood together in comfortable silence, two people who'd found unexpected refuge on a balcony between their separate worlds. Below them, the city continued its endless motion. Behind them, the party carried on, oblivious. "Can I ask you something?" Daniel said finally. "Of course." "Why did you really come out here? It wasn't just to escape the party." Victoria considered lying. It would be easy. She was excellent at strategic truth-telling, at managing narratives and controlling information. But Daniel had given her honesty, raw and unpolished. He deserved the same in return. "I came out here because I was standing in that room, surrounded by hundreds of people, and I realized I couldn't remember the last time anyone looked at me and saw Victoria instead of the CEO. The last time someone talked to me without wanting something. The last time I felt like a person instead of a position." "That sounds lonely." "It is, but it's also a luxury problem, right? Poor little rich girl, sad in her corner office. There are people with real problems." "Loneliness is a real problem," Daniel said quietly. "Money doesn't make it hurt less. Success doesn't fill the empty spaces. I learned that the hard way." "How?" "Emma and I, we were happy. Not rich, not fancy, but happy. We had our small apartment and our growing daughter and our plans for the future. Then she died, and people kept telling me how strong I was, how well I was handling things. But they didn't see me at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I was supposed to be both parents to a 4-year-old. They didn't see me eating cereal over the sink because cooking for one felt too depressing." He paused, his hands gripping the railing. "Success at work didn't fix it. Getting promoted didn't fix it. Keeping busy didn't fix it. The only thing that helped was letting myself feel it, the loss, the loneliness, all of it, and then learning to build something new from what was left." "Have you? Built something new?" "We're trying, Lily and me. We have our routines. Saturday pancakes, Sunday park visits, Wednesday night game nights where she beats me at Uno every single time. It's not the life I planned, but it's the life we have, and most days that's enough." Victoria thought about her own life, carefully structured and meticulously planned. Morning runs at 5:30, breakfast meetings by 7, back-to-back calls and presentations until evening, dinner alone in her penthouse, reviewing documents while the city sparkled below. Weekend charity galas and board dinners and networking events where she smiled until her face hurt. When was the last time she'd played a game? Made pancakes? Done anything that wasn't optimized for productivity or calculated for professional benefit? "You're thinking about something," Daniel observed. "I'm thinking I can't remember the last time I did anything just because I wanted to. Everything's strategic. Everything serves a purpose. Even coming out to this balcony? Maybe especially that. I calculated exactly how long I could be absent before people started looking for me. 15 minutes. That's my window for acceptable escape." Daniel checked his watch. "You've been out here for 12. You counted? I checked my phone when you came around the corner. Habit from tracking Lily's bedtime routine." Something warm bloomed in Victoria's chest. The simple fact of being noticed, being tracked, mattering enough for someone to measure time. "I should go back in," she said, but she didn't move. "Me too. I promised my mom one more hour of networking." Daniel straightened his tie again, that same self-conscious gesture. "Though I have no idea what I'm supposed to be networking for. Pretty sure none of these people need their HVAC systems serviced." You never know. CEO of a major tech company very likely has multiple properties with complex climate control needs. It took Daniel a moment to catch her meaning. When he did, his expression shifted into something that might have been hope or might have been caution. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a conversation about ductwork efficiency and refrigerant systems and whatever else you know that I don't, which is apparently everything, given that I have no idea how the heating works in my own building." "You're serious?" "Completely. My facilities manager has been telling me we need to upgrade our HVAC infrastructure for months, but I don't understand enough about the systems to make informed decisions." "You clearly do." "So this is business." Victoria heard the disappointment in his voice, subtle but unmistakable, and she realized with startling clarity that she didn't want this to be business. She didn't want to hand him off to her facilities manager or schedule a professional consultation. She wanted to keep talking to this man who made pancakes shaped like butterflies and counted time because it mattered. "Actually," she said, "it's not business. It's coffee." "Coffee. Tomorrow, somewhere that doesn't have a dress code or appetizers with gold on them. Somewhere we can talk about whatever we want without networking or deal-making or performing success." Daniel studied her face, searching for something. Victoria held his gaze, letting him look, hoping he'd find whatever he was searching for. "I have Lily tomorrow," he said finally. "Sundays are our park days. There's a playground near the waterfront, and afterward we usually get hot chocolate at this little cafe that makes animal-shaped foam." "That sounds perfect." "You want to spend your Sunday at a playground?" "I want to spend my Sunday talking to someone who sees Victoria instead of the CEO. If that includes a playground and animal-shaped foam, even better." "Lily will interrogate you. She's 6, but she asks questions like a prosecutor. And she has very strong opinions about whether people are trustworthy based on arbitrary criteria like shoe choice and how they eat French fries." "What are the correct answers?" "I have no idea. She hasn't approved of anyone I've introduced her to since Emma died. My mom thinks she's protecting me. My therapist thinks she's protecting herself. Either way, she's a tough audience. I can handle tough audiences. I once presented quarterly earnings to shareholders during a 20% stock drop. That's not the same as a 6-year-old asking why your shoes are shiny when all the best people wear sneakers." Victoria looked down at her Louboutin heels, custom-made and absurdly expensive. "I have sneakers." "When's the last time you wore them?" "My morning runs." "Every day at 5:30. "Of course you run at 5:30. "Probably exactly 30 minutes, optimized route, measured pace." "Oh, 45 minutes, and yes to the rest." Daniel smiled, and Victoria felt something shift in her chest. This man who'd rather be making pancakes, who measured his life in bedtime stories and park visits, who wore his grief and his love with equal honesty, he was looking at her like she was someone worth knowing. "Cafe Meridian," he said, "on the waterfront near the boat docks. 1 o'clock tomorrow. Fair warning, Lily will be there, which means you'll be judged on everything from your laugh to how you stir your coffee. I'll wear my best sneakers. Don't try too hard. She has radar for people who are performing. Then I'll just be myself." "That might be the scariest thing you've said all night." Victoria laughed, surprised by the sound of her own genuine amusement. You're probably right. I'm not sure who that is anymore. Maybe that's what coffee is for, figuring it out. Behind them, the glass doors opened, spilling light and noise onto the balcony. Margaret Chen appeared, her expression shifting from professional to predatory, the moment she spotted Victoria. "There you are," Margaret said, her voice carrying the particular brightness of someone interrupting on purpose. "Walter's been looking for you. He wants to discuss the Brennan Capital partnership before he leaves." Victoria felt the weight settle back onto her shoulders, the expectations, the obligations, the endless performance of power. But when she looked at Daniel, she saw something in his eyes that steadied her. Understanding, maybe. Or just recognition that they were both wearing their uncomfortable truths tonight. "Tell Walter I'll find him in 5 minutes," Victoria said to Margaret, her tone leaving no room for negotiation. Margaret's smile tightened. Her gaze flickered to Daniel, dismissed him in half a second, then returned to Victoria. "Don't be long. You know how he gets when he's kept waiting." She disappeared back inside, leaving them alone again. "I should go," Victoria said. "But tomorrow, 1 o'clock. We'll be there. Fair warning, if Lily decides she doesn't like you, she'll tell you directly. No filter. Honesty. I can work with that." "Can you?" Daniel's expression turned serious. "Because in there, you're the Victoria Hale who gives keynote speeches and runs a multi-billion-dollar company. But out here, you said you're tired and lonely and not sure what matters anymore. If we do this, coffee, conversation, whatever this is, I need to know which version of you shows up." It was a fair question. Victoria had spent 15 years building walls between her private self and her public persona. She'd learned to code switch seamlessly, to be whoever the moment required. But Daniel was asking her to choose, to commit to being one person instead of performing multiple versions. "I don't know," she admitted. "I've been the CEO for so long I'm not sure where she ends and I begin, but I want to find out. And something tells me your 6-year-old won't let me hide behind corporate messaging." "She absolutely won't. Last week she told my boss his tie was ugly and asked if he was sad about it." "What did your boss say?" "He changed his tie. Lily's very persuasive." Victoria extended her hand. "Then I'll see you both tomorrow, and I'll try to wear something Lily approved." Daniel took her hand, his grip warm and solid. "Just be yourself, whoever that is. That's all anyone really wants." He released her hand and headed for the doors, pausing before he went inside. "Thank you," he said, "for listening, for not looking through me like I'm invisible. Thank you for reminding me what honesty sounds like." Victoria watched him disappear into the party, then stood alone on the balcony for another moment, feeling the November wind against her skin. Somewhere in that ballroom, Walter Brennan was waiting to discuss capital partnerships. Her board members were probably wondering where she'd vanished to. Margaret was definitely calculating what she'd witnessed on the balcony. But for the first time in years, Victoria didn't care about managing the narrative. She didn't care about strategic positioning or professional optics. She cared about tomorrow at 1 o'clock, about a cafe that made animal-shaped foam, about a 6-year-old girl who judged people by their shoes and how they ate French fries. She picked up her champagne glass and headed back inside, where the party continued its endless choreography of wealth and influence. But something had shifted. The weight on her shoulders felt different now, not lighter exactly, but more bearable, because somewhere in this city, a widowed father was going home to his daughter, carrying fancy cookies with gold on top. And tomorrow, she would meet them both. Not as Victoria Hale, the CEO, but as Victoria. Just Victoria. Whoever that was. She was ready to find out. Victoria woke at 5:15 on Sunday morning, 15 minutes before her alarm. She lay in bed staring at her ceiling, her mind already spinning through the day ahead. The penthouse was silent except for the soft hum of climate control. Ironic, given yesterday's conversation about HVAC systems she didn't understand. She'd left the summit early, claiming a headache that wasn't entirely fabricated. Walter Brennan had been disappointed. Margaret had been suspicious. Her assistant had rescheduled 2 Monday meetings to accommodate what should have been a Sunday evening working session. But Victoria had driven home alone, parked her car in the private garage, and ridden the elevator to the 40th floor with her mind full of butterfly pancakes and a man who counted time because it mattered. Now, lying in bed as dawn crept across the city, she wondered what she'd been thinking. Coffee with a stranger and his 6-year-old daughter. What was she hoping to find? What was she risking? Everything, a quiet voice answered. You're risking everything by wanting something real. She got up and pulled on her running clothes. Expensive athletic wear that had never seen actual athletic use beyond her calculated morning route. She ran the same path every day, down to the waterfront, north along the harbor, back through the financial district. Exactly 45 minutes. Measured pace. Optimized efficiency. But today, as she ran, she found herself noticing things she usually ignored. The cafe on the corner that was just opening, warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. The elderly man walking his terrier, stopping to let the dog investigate every interesting smell. The young couple sharing coffee on a bench, their hands intertwined, their conversation soft and private. When was the last time she'd held someone's hand? When was the last time she'd had a conversation that wasn't scheduled or strategic? Emma died 2 years, 3 months, 16 days ago, Daniel had said. He counted time and days because everyone mattered. What did Victoria count? Quarterly earnings reports? Board meetings? Years since her father's death, marked only by the annual memorial donation she made to the hospital where he'd died? She finished her run and showered, then stood in her walk-in closet staring at rows of designer suits and evening wear. Nothing appropriate for a playground. Nothing that wouldn't scream wealth and privilege and everything Daniel had said people judged him for. Finally, she found a pair of jeans she'd bought on impulse 2 years ago and never worn. A simple sweater, and yes, sneakers. Good ones, but broken in from her morning runs. She studied herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. Without the armor of a tailored suit, without the carefully applied makeup that signaled power and control, she looked younger, more uncertain, more human. Just be yourself, she said to her reflection. Whoever that is. The waterfront at 12:30 was alive with Sunday activity. Families walked along the harbor path. Street musicians played for loose change. Food vendors sold everything from hot dogs to gourmet crepes. Victoria parked 3 blocks away. Her Tesla would have been too obvious in the small public lot. And walked toward Cafe Meridian, her heart beating harder than it did during her morning runs. The cafe was exactly what she'd imagined. Small, weathered, charming in its imperfection. Windows facing the water. Mismatched tables and chairs. A chalkboard menu advertising hot chocolate with animal foam. She was 20 minutes early, so she found a table near the window and ordered coffee, watching the door like she was preparing for a business negotiation instead of a conversation with a widowed father and his daughter. At 12:55, she saw them. Daniel first, pushing open the cafe door and holding it for Lily, who burst through like contained energy given human form. The little girl wore purple leggings, a pink jacket, and light-up sneakers that flashed with every step. Her dark curls were pulled into 2 lopsided pigtails, Daniel's handiwork, clearly. And her face was open and bright and absolutely fearless. Daniel met Victoria's eyes across the cafe and smiled, tentative but genuine. He wore jeans and a faded university sweatshirt, and he looked more relaxed than he had in his uncomfortable suit. More himself. "Daddy? Is that her?" Lily's voice carried across the entire cafe, causing several people to look up. "The lady from the fancy party? That's her. Remember what we talked about? Be polite but honest. Ask good questions. Watch for red flags." Red flags? Like if she's mean to waiters or doesn't like dogs or says my shoes are too bright. Victoria stood as they approached, suddenly more nervous than she'd been presenting to the Securities and Exchange Commission. "Hi," she said, aiming the word at Lily. "I'm Victoria." Lily tilted her head, studying Victoria with the intensity of someone conducting a scientific evaluation. "Why are your shoes so clean?" Daniel closed his eyes briefly. "Lily, it's a valid question, Daddy. You said I should pay attention to details. I meant like if she's nice or if she listens when people talk." "Shoes or details?" Lily turned back to Victoria. "So why are they so clean? Do you not walk places?" "I run in them," Victoria said. "Every morning, but I'm careful not to step in puddles." "That's boring. Puddles are the best part of running." "I'll have to try stepping in some next time." Lily's expression suggested this answer was acceptable, but not impressive. She climbed onto the chair across from Victoria, her light-up shoes swinging beneath the table. Daniel sat beside her, his hand automatically reaching to adjust one of her crooked pigtails. "Sorry," he said to Victoria. I warned you about the interrogation. It's fine. I appreciate directness. Good, because Lily's about to give you plenty of it. A waitress appeared, young, pierced, cheerful, and Lily immediately ordered hot chocolate with a bunny in the foam. Daniel asked for coffee. Victoria said she was fine with what she had, then caught Daniel's slight headshake. Actually, Victoria said, I'll have hot chocolate too, with whatever animal you think suits me. The waitress grinned. I'm thinking of fox. Clever, but cautious. After she left, Lily leaned forward, her elbows on the table in a way that would have horrified Victoria's childhood etiquette instructor. Do you have kids? Lily asked. No. Why not? Lily, Daniel said gently, that's personal. You said I should ask questions to get to know people. I meant like, what's your favorite color, or what do you like to do for fun? Those are boring questions. Everyone lies about favorite colors. Lily kept her eyes on Victoria. So why don't you have kids? Are you too busy, or do you just not like them? Victoria considered several diplomatic answers, then remembered Daniel's words. Just be yourself. Honesty. I never found the right person to have them with, she said. And by the time I realized I might want children, I was running a very large company, and it felt too late. My teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had a baby when she was 43. So you're probably not too late unless you're really old. How old are you? Lily. Daniel's face had gone slightly red. You can't ask people how old they are. Why not? It's just a number. Because it's impolite. That's a silly rule. Lily turned back to Victoria. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I'm 6 3/4, in case you were wondering. I'm 38, Victoria said. And you're right. It's just a number. Lily considered this information with the seriousness of someone calculating complex mathematics. Okay, that's not too old. My Grammy is 62 and she still does yoga and everything. The waitress returned with their hot chocolates. Lily's had a bunny in perfect white foam. Victoria's had a fox, as promised, with careful details that suggested real artistry. It's pretty, Lily said, studying Victoria's cup. Are you going to drink it or save it? I'm going to drink it. Art is meant to be experienced, not just preserved. That's a good answer. Lily took a sip of her own chocolate, emerging with a foam mustache. Daddy, she passed the first test. There are tests? Victoria asked. 3 of them, Lily said seriously. First is whether you're nice to waiters and appreciate art. Second is whether you're honest, or if you do that thing where grown-ups say stuff they don't mean. Third is whether you make Daddy smile the real way or the fake way. What's the real way? His eyes crinkle at the corners, and he looks less tired. The fake way is just his mouth, and his eyes stay sad. Victoria glanced at Daniel, who was staring into his coffee like it might offer escape from his daughter's brutal honesty. She's not wrong, he said quietly. I do have 2 different smiles. Most people do, Victoria said. I have at least 4, maybe 5. What are they? Lily asked, immediately interested. There's the board meeting smile, very professional, no teeth. There's the networking smile, bigger but still calculated. There's the publicity smile for photos. There's the smile I use when I'm ending conversations I don't want to be in. That's only 4. The 5th one is real, but I use it so rarely, I sometimes forget it exists. When do you use it? Yesterday. On a balcony. When your dad told me about butterfly pancakes. Lily turned to Daniel, her expression shifting into something Victoria couldn't quite read. Hope, maybe. Or permission. She made you do the real smile? Lily asked her father. Yeah, sweetheart, she did. Okay. Lily took another sip of her chocolate, leaving a bigger foam mustache. I think I like her, but I need to see how she eats French fries first. We haven't ordered French fries, Daniel pointed out. Then we should order them. It's important information. Daniel caught Victoria's eye, his expression apologetic and amused in equal measure. You don't have to. I want to, Victoria said. And surprisingly, she meant it. When was the last time she'd eaten French fries? When was the last time she'd spent an afternoon doing something that wasn't optimized or strategic? They ordered fries, a large basket to share, and Lily explained her evaluation criteria with the thoroughness of someone who'd given this considerable thought. If you eat them one at a time, very carefully, you're probably boring, she said. If you eat them too fast without tasting them, you're probably always in a hurry. The best people eat them however feels right, and they share them without being asked. When the fries arrived, Victoria watched Lily take 3 and dip them in ketchup simultaneously. Daniel ate his plain, methodical, but not rushed. Victoria selected one, tasted it, then pushed the basket toward the center of the table where everyone could reach easily. "Pass," Lily announced. "You shared without being weird about it, and you actually tasted the fry instead of just eating it. I'm glad I meet your standards." "You're not done yet. Now we have to go to the playground, and I'll see if you're scared of getting messy." Victoria looked at Daniel, who shrugged with a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "I told you she's thorough." They finished their hot chocolates and fries, then walked 3 blocks to a small park overlooking the harbor. The playground equipment was old but well-maintained, bright primary colors against the gray November sky. Lily ran ahead immediately, heading for the swings. "She likes you," Daniel said as they walked. "The French fry test is usually where people fail." "How do they fail?" "My boss took all the crispy ones and didn't leave any for Lily. My cousin Sarah wouldn't touch them because they weren't organic. And my mom's book club friend tried to convince Lily that vegetables are nature's French fries, which Lily correctly identified as insane." Victoria laughed, her real laugh, unpolished and sudden. "Vegetables are not nature's French fries." "Thank you." "That's what I said." They reached the swings, where Lily was already pumping her legs, going higher with each arc. Her jacket flew open, her pigtails streamed behind her, and her face was pure joy. "Push me, Daddy," she called. Daniel moved behind her, timing his pushes to her rhythm. Victoria stood to the side, watching this small ritual of love and trust. Daniel's hands gentle on Lily's back, Lily's fearless laughter. The way they moved together, a choreography learned through countless Sunday afternoons. "Your turn," Lily shouted, pointing at the empty swing beside her. "Oh, I don't," Victoria started. "Are you scared?" Lily asked, slowing down. "No, I just haven't been on a swing in probably 20 years. "Then you definitely need to try it. You might have forgotten how good it feels." And Victoria looked at the swing, a simple rubber seat on chains, worn smooth by thousands of children seeking the brief illusion of flight. When was the last time she'd done something just because it felt good? When was the last time she'd let herself be childish or carefree or uncontrolled? She sat down on the swing, the chains cold against her palms. Lily had stopped entirely now, watching with interest. "You have to lean back and pump your legs," she instructed. "And don't be scared of going high. That's the best part." Victoria started pumping, awkward at first, then finding the rhythm. And Lily was right. It did feel good. The motion, the momentum, the momentary weightlessness at the top of each arc. She pumped harder, going higher, and heard herself laughing. Daniel stood between them, pushing them both now. And Victoria saw it clearly. The real smile, eyes crinkled, the weight of exhaustion temporarily lifted. He looked younger like this, lighter, more like someone who made butterfly pancakes and less like someone who'd been managing grief for 2 years, 3 months, 16 days. "Okay, this is actually amazing," Victoria called to Lily. "I told you, grown-ups forget about the good stuff." They swung together until Lily got bored and ran to the climbing structure. Daniel and Victoria found a bench nearby, close enough to watch but far enough to talk. "She really does like you," Daniel said. "She hasn't wanted to share the swings with anyone since Emma died. She's remarkable. That level of emotional intelligence in a 6-year-old is rare. She had to grow up fast. After Emma died, Lily became hyper-aware of everything, moods, tones, unspoken feelings. My therapist says it's both a gift and a burden." "You mentioned therapy yesterday. Do you go together or separately?" "Both. I see someone weekly. Lily sees a child psychologist every other week, and once a month we do family sessions." Daniel watched his daughter climb to the top of the structure, her light-up shoes flashing with each step. "People think grief has a timeline, like after 6 months or a year, you should be better. But it doesn't work that way." "How does it work?" "Some days you barely notice it. You make breakfast and go to work and laugh at something funny. And for whole minutes at a time, you forget the world broke. Then something happens. A song, a smell, the way light comes through a window, and suddenly you're drowning again." Emma loved Sunday mornings. She'd make this amazing French toast and insist we eat it in bed while Lily watched cartoons between us. His voice caught, and Victoria saw him swallow hard. Now, Sunday mornings are the hardest, he continued, so we made new traditions. The playground, the cafe, building pillow forts and watching movies. We're creating a different life, but there's always this ghost of the life we had. Does it get easier? Yes and no. The sharp edges wear down. The constant ache becomes occasional. But she's still gone, and Lily still asks questions I can't answer, like whether Emma can see her from heaven or why she had to leave when Lily needed her mom. Victoria had no answers for those questions either. She'd lost her father, but that was different. He'd lived a full life, died of natural causes, left her with a legacy and a company and the weight of expectations. Daniel and Lily had been robbed. There was no other word for it. I don't know what to say, Victoria admitted. Every platitude feels insufficient. Then don't say anything. Just sit here with me while I watch my daughter be brave on the monkey bars. So Victoria sat. They watched Lily in companionable silence, and it felt more honest than 1,000 networking conversations. This was what she'd been missing, the simple act of being present, of sharing space without agenda or performance. Lily eventually ran back over, slightly breathless, her cheeks pink from exertion. I need to ask you something serious, she said to Victoria. Okay. Do you like my daddy? Victoria felt her heartbeat accelerate. This was the real test, she realized. Not French fries or swings. This. I do, she said carefully. I think he's kind and honest and one of the best dads I've ever seen. That's not what I mean. I mean, do you like him? The way people like each other when they hold hands and stuff? Lily, Daniel said, his face reddening. That's not... We just met yesterday. So? Mommy said she knew you were special the first day you met. She said sometimes you just know. The weight of Emma's memory hung between them, sacred and untouchable. Victoria understood she was standing at a threshold. She could retreat to safety, claim this was just coffee and conversation, or she could honor Lily's brutal honesty with truth of her own. I don't know your dad well enough yet to know if I like him, Victoria said. But I'd like the chance to find out, if that's okay with you. Lily studied her for a long moment, then turned to Daniel. What do you think, Daddy? Do you want to find out if you like her? Daniel met Victoria's eyes, and she saw uncertainty and hope and fear all tangled together. Yeah, sweetheart, he said quietly. I think I do. Okay, but if you're going to date or whatever, you have to follow my rules. You have rules for dating? Victoria asked. 3 of them. First, no lying. Not to each other, and especially not to me. Second, you have to still make time for our Sunday traditions. I'm not giving up pancakes and playgrounds for anybody. Third, if it doesn't work out, you have to promise to be nice about it and not make it weird. These were rules born from loss, Victoria understood. Rules designed to protect a little girl who'd already lost too much. I can agree to those, Victoria said. Daddy? Those are good rules, Lily. Fair and smart. Okay then. Lily grabbed both their hands, pulling them up from the bench. Now we have to go feed the ducks because that's part of Sunday, and you have to see if Victoria knows how to throw bread without scaring them. They walked to the pond, Lily between them, still holding both their hands, and Victoria felt something shift inside her chest. This was what she'd been searching for on that balcony. Not escape from her life, but connection to something real. Daniel on one side, steady and honest. Lily on the other, fearless and wise beyond her years. At the pond, Lily produced a bag of cracked corn from her jacket pocket and demonstrated the proper technique for feeding ducks without causing chaos. You have to throw it gentle, see, so they don't all rush at once and get mean. Victoria took some corn and threw it carefully, watching the ducks paddle over with dignified interest rather than aggressive hunger. Good, Lily pronounced. You learn fast. They fed the ducks until the bag was empty, then walked slowly back toward the cafe. The afternoon was fading now, the November sun low over the harbor. Lily skipped ahead, leaving Victoria and Daniel walking side by side. Thank you, Daniel said, for being patient with her, for being honest. Thank you for introducing us. She's extraordinary. She's everything. Some days she's the only thing keeping me tethered to the world. That's a lot of responsibility for a 6-year-old. I know, I try not to let her feel it. But she's perceptive. She knows she's my anchor. They reached the cafe, where Victoria's car was parked 3 blocks away, and Daniel's was in the public lot. I should get Lily home, Daniel said. Bath time and dinner and Sunday movie night. What are you watching? Whatever she picks. Last week it was a documentary about penguins. Week before was a musical about singing cats. You never know with Lily. Sounds perfect. Lily ran back to them, slightly out of breath. Are you leaving? I need to, Victoria said, but I had a really wonderful time. Me too. You passed all the tests, even the duck one. So I think you can come back next Sunday if you want. I'd like that very much. Good. Daddy needs friends who make him smile the real way. Lily turned to Daniel. Can I hug her goodbye? Is that weird? Only if Victoria's comfortable with it. Victoria knelt down so she was at Lily's height. I would love a hug. Lily wrapped her small arms around Victoria's neck, squeezing tight. She smelled like hot chocolate and fresh air and something indefinably sweet. You're nice, Lily whispered, and you're not scared of me. Most people are scared when kids ask hard questions. I'm not scared of hard questions. I'm scared of easy answers. Lily pulled back, her expression serious. That's really smart. I'm going to remember that. She released Victoria and took Daniel's hand. Okay, Daddy, we can go now. See you next Sunday, Victoria. They walked towards the parking lot, and Victoria stood watching them, father and daughter, moving through the world together, making new traditions from the ruins of old ones. Daniel looked back once, his expression unguarded and hopeful. Victoria drove home through the fading light, her mind full of everything that had happened. The interrogation, the swings, the ducks, Lily's small arms around her neck. When she reached her penthouse, it felt even emptier than usual. The silence seemed louder. The carefully curated space felt sterile. She opened her laptop, intending to review documents for Monday's meetings. But instead, she found herself searching for children's playgrounds near her office, HVAC maintenance companies, recipes for butterfly pancakes. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Daniel. Lily insisted I get your number so we could plan properly for next Sunday. Also, she wanted me to tell you that you should wear the purple sneakers if you have them, because purple is the color of royalty and friendship. Victoria smiled, her real smile, the one she'd almost forgotten existed. I don't have purple sneakers, but I'll buy some this week. Tell Lily I take her advice seriously. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. She's smiling so big right now. Thank you for today, for being patient with us, for being real. Thank you for letting me in, both of you. Victoria set her phone down and walked to her floor-to-ceiling windows. The city spread below her, millions of lights marking millions of lives. Somewhere out there, Daniel was giving Lily a bath, reading her bedtime stories, tucking her in with promises of pancakes next Saturday. And somehow, impossibly, Victoria was part of that now. Not in a calculated way, not strategically, but honestly, messily real. She thought about Monday morning, about the board meeting she had at 9 and the investor call at noon, about Margaret's knowing looks and Walter's expectations, about the careful performance of power she'd maintain all week long. But she also thought about next Sunday, about purple sneakers and duck ponds and a 6-year-old girl who saw through pretense like glass, about a man who counted days because they mattered and made pancakes shaped like butterflies because love meant showing up in small, consistent ways. For the first time in 8 years, Victoria Hale was building something that had nothing to do with quarterly earnings or market share or her father's legacy. She was building something fragile and uncertain and terrifyingly real. And she couldn't wait to see what it became. The purple sneakers arrived on Wednesday. Victoria had ordered them Monday night after her board meeting, sitting in her office with the door closed, feeling slightly ridiculous about spending $200 on shoes chosen by a 6-year-old. But when she opened the box and saw them, bright purple with silver laces, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Anticipation. The simple joy of looking forward to something that had nothing to do with business metrics or strategic positioning. She wore them Thursday morning for her run, and they felt like a promise. A commitment to something she couldn't yet name but desperately wanted to protect. The week passed in its usual rhythm of meetings and decisions and carefully managed crises. But underneath the familiar routine, Victoria felt a current of change running through everything. She caught herself smiling at odd moments. During a presentation about solar panel efficiency, in the middle of reviewing legal contracts, while her CFO droned on about risk mitigation strategies. Small, private smiles that had nothing to do with the corporate world and everything to do with a text conversation that had been growing throughout the week. Daniel sent her photos. Lily wearing mismatched socks because she'd declared them more interesting than matching ones. A lopsided birthday cake they'd made for Daniel's mother. A sunset from their apartment window with the caption, "Lily says this one looks like friendship because it's lots of colors mixed together." Victoria sent photos back, though hers felt stiffer at first. Her morning coffee. The view from her office. A technical drawing of the new solar array her engineers were developing. But Daniel responded to each one with genuine interest, asking questions about her work that weren't performative networking but actual curiosity. By Friday, their texts had evolved into real conversations. Daniel shared stories about his job, the elderly woman whose furnace he'd fixed just before the cold snap, the new apprentice who couldn't tell a screwdriver from a wrench, the satisfaction of diagnosing a complex system failure that had stumped 3 other technicians. Victoria found herself telling him about the breakthrough her medical technology division had achieved, how they'd reduced manufacturing costs on a diagnostic device that could save lives in rural communities. "That's incredible," Daniel texted back. "You're literally changing the world while I'm changing air filters. You keep people safe and comfortable in their homes. That matters just as much." Most CEOs wouldn't see it that way. I'm learning that most CEOs miss a lot of important things. On Saturday morning, Victoria's assistant called with news that the Shanghai office needed her to join a conference call that evening. It would run late, 9 or 10 at night her time. Victoria almost agreed automatically, then stopped herself. "Reschedule it," she said. "Monday morning works better." But Mr. Chen specifically requested Monday morning, Sarah, or Tuesday if that's better for Shanghai's time zone, but not Saturday night. There was a pause on the line, weighted with surprise. Victoria never refused weekend work, never prioritized personal time over business needs. "Of course," Sarah said finally. "I'll coordinate with their team." After she hung up, Victoria sat staring at her phone, slightly amazed at herself. She'd just turned down a high-level meeting for the first time in her career. And for what? For the possibility of an evening text conversation with Daniel and Lily. For the choice to keep Saturday night free, to not be exhausted Sunday morning, to show up fully present at the playground instead of distracted by work she'd been doing until midnight. Her phone buzzed. "Daniel. Lily wants to know if you've practiced feeding ducks this week. She's concerned you might forget the gentle throwing technique." Victoria laughed out loud in her empty penthouse. "Tell her I've been practicing my form with crumpled paper and my office trash can. I'm ready for the advanced duck feeding curriculum." She says that's acceptable preparation. Also, she wants to know if the purple sneakers came and if they're the right shade of purple, because apparently there are 17 different purples and only 3 of them are friendship colors. "They came. I wore them running this morning. I'm confident they're friendship approved." Photo evidence required. Lily's very serious about documentation. Victoria looked down at the purple sneakers still on her feet. She hadn't changed after her run, had spent the morning in athletic wear instead of her usual weekend suit, reviewing reports from her couch instead of her office. She snapped a photo of her feet, the sneakers bright against her hardwood floor. "Submitted for official approval." The response came quickly. "Those are perfect, Lily's exact words, in all caps. She's now doing a victory dance around the living room. You've made her whole weekend." Victoria felt warmth spread through her chest. When was the last time she'd made someone's whole weekend? When was the last time her choices had brought someone pure, uncomplicated joy? That night, instead of working, she researched children's movies. She read reviews of animated films, learned about characters named Elsa and Moana and Miguel. She watched trailers, trying to understand what made these stories resonate with 6-year-olds. It felt foreign and slightly absurd, but also necessary. If she was going to be part of Lily's life, even in this tentative, still-forming way, she wanted to speak her language. Sunday morning arrived cold and bright. Victoria woke naturally at 6, no alarm, and lay in bed watching the sunrise paint her ceiling in shades of gold and pink. Lily would say this one looked like hope, she thought, or maybe possibility. She dressed carefully, jeans, a soft gray sweater, and the purple sneakers. She pulled her hair into a simple ponytail instead of the sleek style she usually wore. Minimal makeup. She looked in the mirror and saw someone younger, less guarded, someone who might belong at a playground. The cafe was busier this Sunday, families claiming tables after church services and morning activities. Victoria arrived early again, unable to help herself, and found a table near the window. She ordered coffee and waited, watching the door with an anticipation that felt both thrilling and terrifying. When Daniel and Lily arrived, Victoria's breath caught. Daniel wore a dark green sweater that made his eyes look lighter, and he'd shaved, though he'd missed a small spot near his jaw. Lily had on orange leggings, a yellow shirt, and a green jacket, a combination that shouldn't have worked but somehow perfectly captured her chaotic joy. Her pigtails were even more lopsided than last week. "Purple sneakers!" Lily shrieked the moment she saw Victoria, causing half the cafe to turn and look. She ran over, her own light-up shoes flashing. "They're perfect! The exact right purple. Can I see them up close?" Victoria extended her feet, and Lily crouched down to examine the sneakers with the intensity of a gemologist evaluating diamonds. Silver laces. Good choice. Purple stitching. Excellent. Slightly worn in, but not too much. Perfect. She looked up at Daniel. "Daddy, she did really good. Professional level sneaker selection." "I can see that," Daniel said, smiling his real smile, the one that crinkled his eyes. He met Victoria's gaze over Lily's head. "Hi." "Hi." It was a simple exchange, but something passed between them in that moment. Recognition, relief, the quiet acknowledgement that they'd both spent the week thinking about this Sunday. They ordered their drinks, hot chocolate with animals for both Lily and Victoria, coffee for Daniel, and settled at the table. Lily immediately launched into a detailed account of her week, including the drama with her friend Sophie, who'd claimed pink was better than purple, the injustice of having homework in first grade, and the triumph of losing her first tooth. "See?" She opened her mouth wide, showing the gap in her bottom row. "The tooth fairy brought me $5, which Daddy says is way too much, but Grammy says it's because I was very brave about the wiggling." $5 seems appropriate for a first tooth," Victoria said seriously. "That's what I said. Daddy thought $2 was enough, but Grammy overruled him. She said first teeth are special." Daniel shook his head, but he was smiling. "My mother spoils her. Grammy says I deserve spoiling because I'm her only grandchild and also because I've been through hard things. Is that true, Victoria? Do people who've been through hard things deserve extra spoiling?" The question hung in the air, deceptively simple, but weighted with everything Lily had lost. "I think everyone deserves kindness," Victoria said carefully. "But yes, people who've been through hard things deserve extra gentleness, extra patience, extra love." "Did you go through hard things?" "Lily," Daniel said quietly, "remember what we talked about? Not everyone wants to share their hard things." "It's okay," Victoria said. She looked at Lily directly. "I did. My dad died when I was 30. I loved him very much, and when he died, I felt lost for a long time." "Do you still feel lost?" "Sometimes. Less than I used to, but there are still days when I miss him so much it's hard to breathe." Lily nodded sagely. "That's how I feel about my mommy. Most days are okay now, but sometimes I see something she would have liked, like a pretty bird or a rainbow, and I get sad because I can't show her." Victoria felt her throat tighten. "That sounds really hard." "It is, but Daddy says it's okay to be sad about people you love. He says missing them means they mattered." "Your daddy's right. He's right about most things, except the tooth fairy money. That was Grammy's call." The moment of heaviness passed, and Lily moved on to explaining the playground plan for the day. But Victoria noticed Daniel's hand trembling slightly as he lifted his coffee cup. Noticed the way he blinked rapidly, fighting emotion. This was his life, navigating profound loss while his daughter asked strangers about hard things, trying to understand a world that had taken her mother too soon. After their drinks, they walked to the playground. Lily ran ahead as usual, but this time she kept circling back, including Victoria in her running commentary. "See that tree? That's where Daddy pushed my swing so high last month that I thought I'd touch the clouds. And that bench is where Grammy sits when she comes with us. And that's the good slide, the fast one. The other slide is baby stuff." At the swings, Lily insisted Victoria take the one beside her again. They swung together, Lily offering coaching tips. "Lean back more. Point your toes. No, not that much. You'll fall off. Better. See, you're getting it." Daniel stood between them again, pushing them both, and Victoria felt the same weightless joy she'd experienced last week. The simple pleasure of motion and momentum and being part of something uncomplicated. But this time, when Lily jumped off and ran to the climbing structure, Daniel sat on the empty swing beside Victoria. They swung gently, their feet dragging through the wood chips. "I need to tell you something," Daniel said, his voice low enough that Lily couldn't hear from across the playground. Victoria's stomach dropped. Here it comes, she thought. The reasonable explanation for why this can't continue. The practical acknowledgement that their worlds don't fit together. "Okay," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "People are starting to notice. My mom asked who I've been texting all week. My coworker saw me smiling at my phone and made assumptions. And yesterday, Lily told her teacher she's making a new friend named Victoria who's going to come to her birthday party in March. Is that a problem?" "No. Maybe. I don't know." Daniel stopped swinging, planting his feet firmly in the wood chips. "I haven't dated anyone since Emma died. Haven't wanted to. Haven't been able to imagine letting someone into our life. But this, it's different, and it's scaring me. It's scaring me too." He turned to look at her, surprise clear in his expression. "It is? I run a multi-billion-dollar company. I make decisions that affect thousands of people. I negotiate with hostile boards and manage international crises. But the thought of this, of you and Lily, of something real, terrifies me more than any boardroom." "Why?" "Because I can't control it. I can't strategize it or optimize it or manage the risk. And because if it doesn't work, if I mess this up, I'm not just losing a business opportunity. I'm losing something I didn't even know I was missing." Daniel was quiet for a moment, processing. Lily's laughter carried across the playground. She'd found another child to play with, a boy about her age who was navigating the monkey bars. "I don't know how to do this," Daniel said finally. "I don't know how to date as a widowed single father. I don't know how to introduce someone into Lily's life without making promises I can't guarantee. I don't know how to be fair to you when so much of my heart is already spoken for." "Then we figure it out together, slowly, honestly." "What if people judge us? What if they say you're slumming it with the HVAC guy? What if my friends think I'm replacing Emma, or your colleagues think I'm using you?" Victoria had been expecting these questions, but hearing them spoken aloud made them more real, more dangerous. "Let them talk," she said. "I've spent 15 years managing other people's opinions. I'm tired of it. For once, I want to do something because it feels right, not because it looks right. Even if it costs you professionally? Even then. You say that now. But wait until the first article appears, or the first board member questions your judgment, or the first investor makes a comment about your personal choices affecting their confidence. Is that what you're worried about? That I'll bail when it gets difficult? I'm worried that you don't know what you're signing up for. Dating me means dating us, me and Lily. It means Saturday morning pancakes and bedtime stories and elementary school events. It means being patient when I'm exhausted, or when Lily's having a hard grief day. It means understanding that some nights I'll cancel plans because my daughter needs me more than whatever we had scheduled. I understand that. Do you? Because your world is penthouses and private jets and galas where the champagne costs more than my monthly rent. My world is a 2-bedroom apartment where the heating sometimes doesn't work, and we eat spaghetti 3 times a week because it's cheap and Lily likes it. Those worlds don't overlap easily. Victoria stopped swinging entirely, turning to face him directly. You're right. They don't. But maybe that's the point. Maybe I need less penthouse and more spaghetti. Maybe you need someone who sees you instead of just what you do. Maybe we both need to stop living in the worlds we inherited and start building one that actually fits. That's beautiful in theory, but reality is complicated. Everything worth having is complicated. Before Daniel could respond, Lily came running over, breathless and excited. Daddy, Victoria, that boy, his name is Marcus. He has the same light-up shoes as me. Can he come feed the ducks with us? His mom says it's okay if it's okay with you. Daniel looked at Victoria, a question in his eyes. This was a test, she realized. Not one Lily had designed, but one that mattered just as much. Could Victoria share this ritual? Could she be flexible when plans changed? Could she welcome a stranger into their Sunday tradition? Absolutely, Victoria said to Lily. The more the merrier. Lily beamed and ran back to collect Marcus, who turned out to be a shy 7-year-old with glasses and an encyclopedic knowledge of duck species. His mother, Teresa, joined them for the walk to the pond, a warm woman in her 40s who worked as a nurse and had Sundays off. I've seen you here before, Teresa said to Daniel as they walked. You and your daughter. She's got quite the personality. That's one way to describe her, Daniel said, smiling. Marcus doesn't make friends easily. Too anxious, too worried about saying the wrong thing. But he lit up when Lily started talking to him. She's got a gift for making people feel included. Victoria watched Lily and Marcus walking ahead of them, Lily explaining the proper duck feeding technique with the same seriousness she'd used teaching Victoria. Marcus listened intently, nodding at all the right moments, his initial shyness melting under Lily's confident warmth. At the pond, Lily distributed the cracked corn, making sure Marcus got an equal share. She positioned him beside her, demonstrated the gentle throwing technique, then supervised as he tried it himself. Perfect, she announced when his first throw successfully attracted ducks without chaos. You're a natural. Victoria, did you see how good Marcus is at this? I did. He's excellent. They fed the ducks together, and Victoria found herself talking with Teresa about nursing schedules and the challenges of single parenting. Teresa's husband had died 3 years ago. Cancer, quick and brutal, leaving her alone with Marcus and a mountain of medical debt. People mean well, Teresa said, watching their children, but they don't understand that grief isn't something you get over. It's something you learn to carry. Some days the weight is manageable. Other days it's crushing. But you keep going because you have to, because your kid needs you to show them how to survive hard things. Daniel nodded, his expression showing recognition. Exactly. Everyone wants you to be better, to move on, to stop being sad, but moving on feels like betrayal. Does it get easier? Teresa asked. The guilt about maybe wanting to be happy again? Yes and no. I still feel guilty sometimes. Like if I'm laughing or enjoying something, I'm dishonoring Emma's memory. But my therapist keeps reminding me that Emma would want me to be happy, that living well isn't betrayal, it's honoring the life she wanted for me and Lily. Teresa glanced at Victoria, then back at Daniel. Are you two? We're figuring it out, Daniel said simply. Good. You deserve someone who makes you smile like that. Emma would approve. The words hung in the air, both blessing and challenge. Victoria felt the weight of Emma's invisible presence, the ghost of the life Daniel and Lily had lost. She would never replace Emma. Shouldn't try. But maybe there was room for something new alongside the memory of something cherished. After the ducks, Marcus and Teresa headed home, and Victoria, Daniel, and Lily walked slowly back toward the cafe. Lily was quieter now, the energy of the afternoon giving way to tiredness. I like Marcus, she announced, and his mom seems nice. Can we see them again next Sunday? We'll see, Daniel said, but probably. Good. It's nice having more people in our tradition, as long as they follow the rules and don't try to change the important parts. They reached the parking area, and Victoria realized she didn't want the afternoon to end. She wanted more time with them, more of Lily's honest observations and Daniel's quiet strength. But she also understood that respecting boundaries was part of earning trust. I should go, she said. Let you two have your Sunday movie time. What are you doing tonight? Lily asked. Probably working. I have a big week ahead. That's boring. You should do something fun instead. Like what? Like come watch a movie with us. We're watching the one about the girl who has emotions that are little people in her head. It's really good, and there's a sad part that makes Daddy cry every time. Lily, Daniel said, his face reddening, I don't cry every time. You do, though. When the sad feeling gets lost, you get all sniffly. Victoria looked at Daniel, seeking permission. He hesitated, and she could see the internal debate playing across his face. This would be crossing a threshold, inviting her into their apartment, into their most private space and intimate routine. You don't have to, Victoria said quietly. I understand if it's too much. It's not too much, Daniel said. It's just fast. But maybe fast is okay. Maybe overthinking is what gets us in trouble. So she can come? Lily asked hopefully. If she wants to. I want to, Victoria said. And she meant it more than she'd meant almost anything. They drove separately to Daniel's apartment, a modest building in a neighborhood Victoria had never visited, where the parking was street only and the buildings wore their age with neither shame nor pretense. Daniel's unit was on the third floor, and they climbed stairs that creaked under their weight. The apartment was small, living room, kitchen, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, but it was warm and lived in and unmistakably home. Lily's artwork covered the refrigerator. Photos of Emma dotted every surface, her presence woven into the fabric of their daily life. The furniture was mismatched, but comfortable. The kind that invited you to sit and stay. "It's not much," Daniel said, sounding apologetic. "It's perfect," Victoria said honestly. Lily immediately began preparing for movie night with the efficiency of someone executing a well-practiced routine. She pulled blankets from the hall closet, arranged pillows on the couch, and retrieved a bowl for popcorn from the kitchen cabinet. "Daddy, you make the popcorn. Victoria, you can help me with the blanket fort if you want. We always make a blanket fort for movie night because it makes it more magical." Victoria found herself on her hands and knees on the living room floor, helping a 6-year-old drape blankets over chairs and anchor them with couch cushions. When was the last time she'd built a blanket fort? Had she ever? "Perfect," Lily declared when they finished. The fort created a cozy cave in front of the TV, barely big enough for all 3 of them. "Now we get in and wait for Daddy to bring the popcorn." They crawled inside, and Victoria found herself sitting cross-legged on the floor in a blanket cave, wearing purple sneakers and a huge smile she couldn't suppress. Daniel appeared with a large bowl of popcorn, and his expression when he saw them in the fort, Lily grinning proudly, Victoria looking slightly disheveled and completely happy, was something Victoria wanted to memorize. He crawled in beside them, the 3 of them barely fitting in the small space. Lily sat between them, the bowl of popcorn balanced on her lap. Daniel started the movie, and the opening credits began. Lily was right about the movie being good, and right about Daniel crying at the sad part. When the character representing sadness got lost, Victoria saw Daniel's eyes grow wet, saw him discreetly wipe at them with the back of his hand. Lily reached over and patted his arm without looking away from the screen, a gesture so natural and practiced it spoke of countless similar moments. Victoria felt her own throat tighten, but not just because of the movie, because of this. The intimacy of grief shared, of comfort offered, of a family learning to hold sadness and joy simultaneously. This was what she'd been missing in her carefully controlled life. This messy, honest, imperfect love. When the movie ended, Lily was asleep against Daniel's shoulder, her mouth slightly open, her breathing steady and deep. Daniel looked down at her with such tenderness that Victoria had to look away, feeling like she was intruding on something sacred. "I should put her to bed," he whispered. "I should go." "Don't. Not yet. Please." Daniel carefully lifted Lily, carrying her to her bedroom. Victoria heard the quiet sounds of bedtime rituals, teeth brushing, pajamas, a soft song Daniel sang that was just barely audible. When he returned, he looked exhausted but also more relaxed than she'd seen him. "She really likes you," he said, sitting beside Victoria on the couch. "She asked if you're going to be part of our family now." "What did you tell her?" "That I hope so, but that grown-ups have to figure things out slowly." "What do we need to figure out?" Daniel turned to face her fully. "Everything. How this works when you're in board meetings and I'm fixing broken furnaces. How we handle the fact that your life is public and photographed and mine is invisible. How we protect Lily if this doesn't work out. How we honor Emma's memory while building something new. Those are all valid concerns. But none of them change the fact that I haven't felt this alive in years. That sitting in a blanket fort eating popcorn with you and your daughter felt more real than any gala or summit or boardroom. That I want to figure out the complicated parts because the simple parts, the honest conversation, the genuine connection, the feeling of belonging, those are worth fighting for. Even if people talk, even if it's messy and difficult. Especially then. Daniel reached for her hand, his fingers lacing through hers. The touch was electric, intimate, weighted with possibility. "I'm scared," he admitted. Terrified, actually, of letting someone in, of Lily getting attached and then hurt, of not being enough for someone like you. "You're already enough. You've been enough since the balcony, when you said you'd rather be making pancakes with your daughter than networking with billionaires. That's when I knew you were someone worth knowing. I still feel that way." I still don't belong in your world. Then maybe we build a different world, one that belongs to both of us. Daniel studied their joined hands, his thumb moving slowly across her knuckles. Okay, he said finally, but we do this right. We go slow. We protect Lily. And the first time you feel like this isn't what you want, the first time you miss your old life or regret getting involved with the complicated mess that comes with me, you tell me. No gentle letdown, no polite exit strategy, just honesty. Same goes for you. The first time you feel like I don't understand your world or I'm not fitting into your life the way you need, you tell me. Deal. They sat together in comfortable silence, hands still joined, the apartment quiet around them. Through the wall, Victoria could hear Lily's soft breathing, the sound of a child sleeping peacefully in a home built from love and loss and resilience. I should really go, Victoria said eventually. It's late, and tomorrow's Monday. Back to the corporate world, back to the performance. But it feels different now, like I'm playing a role instead of being consumed by it. Daniel walked her to the door, neither of them releasing the other's hand until absolutely necessary. In the hallway, with the door still open behind him, he looked at her with an expression that made Victoria's breath catch. Thank you, he said. For the purple sneakers and the duck feeding and the blanket fort. For seeing us, really seeing us, and still wanting to stay. Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me with something as precious as your Sunday traditions and your daughter's approval. They stood close enough that Victoria could see the exact moment Daniel decided to kiss her. Could see the fear and hope and want all crossing his face in quick succession. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away, but she didn't. She met him halfway, their lips touching soft and tentative and full of promise. It was brief, barely more than a breath shared between them, but it felt like a beginning, like stepping off a cliff and discovering you could fly. When they pulled apart, Daniel's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I haven't kissed anyone since Emma, he whispered. I wasn't sure I'd remember how, or if it would feel like betrayal. Did it? No. It felt like maybe I'm allowed to be happy again, like maybe she'd be okay with this. I think she would be. Victoria left then, before the moment could become too heavy, before either of them could overthink what had just shifted between them. She walked down the creaking stairs and out to her car, her lips still tingling, her heart beating faster than it had during any business presentation. The drive home took 20 minutes, but Victoria barely noticed. Her mind was full of purple sneakers and blanket forts, and the feeling of Daniel's hand in hers. When she reached her penthouse, the emptiness hit harder than usual. The silence felt oppressive. The carefully curated space felt like a museum to a life she'd outgrown. She pulled out her phone and texted Daniel. I made it home safely. Thank you for tonight, for all of it. His response came quickly. Thank you for being brave enough to try. Lily's already planning next Sunday. Fair warning, she's talking about teaching you how to braid hair. But Victoria laughed, the sound echoing in her empty apartment. I'm a terrible student, but I'm willing to learn. That's all any of us can do. Learn as we go. Make mistakes and forgive them. Build something new from pieces of old things. I'm ready for that. For all of it. Good. Because we're a package deal. Messy mornings and complicated grief and a 6-year-old who will judge every choice you make. I wouldn't want it any other way. Victoria set her phone down and walked to her windows, looking out at the city that had once felt like her entire world. Somewhere out there, in a modest third-floor apartment, Daniel was probably checking on Lily one more time before bed, making sure her blankets were tucked right, whispering goodnight to Emma's photo on the nightstand. And somehow, impossibly, Victoria was part of that now. Not replacing anything, not fixing anything, just being present, being honest, being willing to build something fragile and terrifying and achingly real. She'd spent 15 years proving she could succeed in a man's world, could lead a company her father built, could make decisions that affected thousands of lives. But this, learning to build a blanket fort, mastering the art of gentle duck feeding, earning the approval of a 6-year-old who judged people by their shoes, this felt like the hardest and most important work she'd ever done. And for the first time in 8 years, Victoria Hale wasn't afraid of failing. She was only afraid of not trying. The photograph appeared in the business section of the Chronicle on Tuesday morning. Someone had taken it Sunday at the waterfront. Victoria in her purple sneakers and jeans, laughing at something Lily had said, Daniel's hand resting casually on the small of her back. The headline read, Tech CEO Victoria Hale's Surprising Sunday, Playground Romance. Victoria stared at the article on her tablet during her 7 o'clock meeting, barely hearing her CFO's presentation about third-quarter projections. The photo was innocent enough, but the implications were clear. The article speculated about her mystery man and his young daughter, questioned whether this represented a shift in her priorities, wondered if personal entanglements might affect her legendary focus on the company. Her phone buzzed continuously. Her assistant, her publicist, 3 board members. Margaret Chen, of course, with a text that simply said, "We need to talk." Victoria silenced her phone and tried to focus on the meeting, but her mind kept returning to Daniel and Lily. Had they seen the article? Was Daniel fielding questions from co-workers? Was Lily being asked about the strange lady at her playground? The meeting ended, and Victoria barely made it back to her office before Margaret appeared, closing the door behind her with deliberate care. "So," Margaret said, settling into the chair across from Victoria's desk, "the HVAC technician from the summit. I wondered if that balcony conversation would develop into something." "It's none of your business, Margaret. Everything that affects this company is my business. I'm the chief operating officer, and when our CEO starts showing up in the newspaper with a single father and his child looking decidedly unprofessional in sneakers and jeans, that affects the company. I was off duty on a Sunday in a public park." "There's no such thing as off duty when you're Victoria Hale, you know that. Every choice you make, every person you associate with, reflects on Hale Technologies." Margaret leaned forward, her expression calculating. "Who is he? What does he want? Has he asked you for money yet? For investments in some startup idea?" "He hasn't asked me for anything, and what he wants is the same thing I want, to spend time together and see if this develops into something real." "Real? That's sweet, but also naive. Men like that, working class, widowed, single father, they see someone like you as a lottery ticket, a way to solve all their financial problems." Victoria felt anger building in her chest, hot and fierce. "You don't know anything about him. I know he makes maybe $60,000 a year fixing air conditioners while you're worth $3 billion. I know he lives in a neighborhood where the average rent is $1,200 a month, while you own a penthouse worth more than most people will earn in their lifetimes. The math isn't complicated, Victoria. He's punching way above his weight, and eventually he'll cash in. Get out." "Excuse me?" "Get out of my office, now." Margaret stood, her expression shifting from calculating to genuinely surprised. "I'm trying to protect you. The board is going to have questions. Walter already called asking if this represents a change in your commitment level. Tell Walter and the board that my personal life is personal. Tell them that I'm the same CEO I was last week, making the same decisions, driving the same results, and tell them that if they have concerns, they can schedule a meeting and ask me directly instead of gossiping like high schoolers. This isn't gossip. It's legitimate concern about judgment and priorities. My judgment built this company into what it is today. My priorities have saved this company millions while expanding our market share and developing technologies that actually matter. One photograph of me at a playground doesn't change any of that. One photograph makes people question your focus, makes them wonder if you're getting soft, if you're prioritizing romance over results. Then let them wonder. I'm done explaining myself to people who think working 80-hour weeks and sacrificing everything for quarterly earnings is the only valid way to lead." Margaret moved toward the door, then paused. "Be careful, Victoria. Men like him might seem genuine at first, but everyone has a price. Everyone wants something. And when he shows you what his something is, remember that I warned you." After she left, Victoria sat alone in her office, her hands shaking with anger and something else. Fear, maybe. Because what if Margaret was right? What if Daniel's interest had an expiration date tied to his financial struggles? What if the genuine connection she felt was real for her, but strategic for him? No. She pushed the thought away. She'd seen his grief, his love for Lily, his discomfort at the summit. Those things weren't performative. They couldn't be faked. Her phone rang. Daniel. She answered immediately. "Did you see it? The article?" "Yeah. My boss showed me first thing this morning. He thought it was hilarious that I'm dating up, as he put it. The guys at work have been giving me grief all day." "I'm so sorry." I didn't think anyone was paying attention. I should have been more careful. Victoria, we were at a public playground. We're allowed to exist in public spaces together. But the speculation, the questions, are annoying but manageable. I'm more worried about you. Are you getting heat from your board? Margaret came to warn me about your inevitable financial motivations. Apparently you're going to reveal yourself as a gold digger any day now. Daniel was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was tight. Is that what you think? That I'm using you? No, absolutely not. But Margaret planted the seed, and now I'm wondering if other people will think that, if it'll affect how they see me professionally. So what do you want to do? End this before it gets more complicated? The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. This was her exit. Clean, reasonable, justified by professional concerns and public perception. She could return to her carefully controlled life, could eliminate the variable that Margaret and the board found so threatening. No, Victoria said firmly. That's not what I want. I want to figure this out. I want to not care what Margaret or Walter or the Chronicle thinks, but I also need to be honest with you about the pressure that's coming. What kind of pressure? The board will want reassurance that I'm still focused. The media will dig into your background, your finances, your late wife. People will make assumptions and spread rumors. It's going to get ugly before it gets better. Can I ask you something? Of course. Is this worth it to you? Am I worth the professional headache and the public scrutiny? Victoria thought about Sunday night. The blanket fort, Lily's sleeping face, Daniel's hand in hers, the kiss that had felt like permission to want something beyond quarterly earnings and market share. Yes, she said, you're worth it, both of you. Then we deal with it, together. We don't hide, but we also don't feed the speculation. We live our lives, and we let people think whatever they're going to think. That's easier said than done. I know, but I've survived worse than gossip. We both have. And if we're doing this, really doing this, then we face it head on instead of letting fear make our choices. Victoria felt something loosen in her chest. When did you become so wise? 2 years, 3 months, and 23 days ago, when I had to explain to a 4-year-old why her mother wasn't coming home. You learn quickly that other people's opinions matter a lot less than the people you love. They talked for another 10 minutes, making plans for the weekend, discussing how to handle questions from Lily about the newspaper. When Victoria hung up, she felt steadier, more certain. She called her assistant. Sarah, schedule a board meeting for Friday afternoon. Tell them I'll address their concerns about my personal life then. Are you sure that's wise? Maybe it's better to let this blow over quietly. I'm done with quiet. Schedule the meeting. The rest of the week passed in a blur of work and tension. The article spawned follow-up pieces, each more speculative than the last. Social media buzzed with opinions about whether Victoria was having a midlife crisis or finally humanizing her icy corporate image. Daniel's Facebook profile was screenshotted and analyzed. Someone found Emma's obituary and turned it into a tragic backstory. Through it all, Daniel and Victoria texted constantly. He sent her photos of Lily's latest art project, a drawing of 3 stick figures labeled Daddy, Lily, and Victoria holding hands under a purple sun. Victoria sent him articles about the company's new solar initiative, grateful for someone who asked genuine questions instead of fishing for insider information. On Thursday night, Victoria's publicist called with a strategy proposal. We can spin this positively, Rachel said, her voice bright with professional enthusiasm. CEO finds love after tragedy. Powerful woman embraces work-life balance. We could arrange a photo shoot, maybe an interview with a sympathetic journalist. Control the narrative before it controls you. No, Victoria said. This isn't a PR opportunity. This is my life. Your life is news when you're Victoria Hale. We might as well make it good news. I'm not using Daniel and Lily for positive publicity. That's exploitative and gross. It's strategic. There's a difference. Not to me. Thanks, Rachel, but no. We're not doing manufactured photo shoots or carefully scripted interviews. If people want to know about my personal life, they can wonder. Friday's board meeting started exactly as Victoria expected. Walter Brennan led the charge, his concern wrapped in language about fiduciary responsibility and stakeholder confidence. We're not questioning your right to a personal life, Walter said, his tone suggesting he was absolutely questioning exactly that. But perception matters in our industry. when our CEO's judgment appears compromised. My judgment isn't compromised, Victoria interrupted. My quarterly results aren't compromised. My strategic vision isn't compromised. The only thing that's changed is that I'm spending my Sundays at a playground instead of working, which actually suggests better work-life balance, not worse judgment. But the optics, another board member started. The optics are that I'm a human being with a personal life. The same personal life you all have. The same personal life you all protect and prioritize. But because I'm a woman, because I'm the CEO, suddenly my choice to date someone is a board-level concern? Margaret spoke up, her voice measured. It's not about gender, it's about the significant class difference. The potential for exploitation or poor judgment based on emotional attachment. You mean the potential that I might be thinking with my heart instead of my head? That I might make choices based on personal happiness instead of maximizing shareholder value? That's not what I said. But it's what you meant. And here's the truth. Yes, I'm dating someone who makes less money than I do. Yes, he's a single father. Yes, this relationship might fail spectacularly and publicly. But none of that affects my ability to run this company. None of that changes the technologies we're developing or the markets we're entering or the value we're creating. Walter leaned forward. But it changes how people see you, how they trust your decision-making. Then they'll have to learn to trust that I can separate personal and professional decisions, that I can date a working-class widower without suddenly losing my ability to negotiate billion-dollar contracts or make strategic acquisitions. You've trusted me for 8 years. That trust doesn't evaporate because I'm wearing sneakers on Sunday. The meeting continued for another hour, circling the same concerns in different language. By the end, Victoria had secured a tentative truce. The board would reserve judgment, would trust her professional performance to speak for itself, would not interfere in her personal life as long as company results remained strong. It wasn't enthusiastic support, but it was enough. That night, emotionally exhausted, Victoria drove to Daniel's apartment without calling first. She needed to see him, needed the reality of his presence to counteract the afternoon of defending their relationship to people who'd never met him. Daniel answered the door in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, his hair still damp from a shower. His surprise quickly shifted to concern when he saw her face. Bad day? Board meeting. They expressed their concerns about my personal choices affecting my professional judgment. And I told them to trust the same judgment that's been driving results for 8 years, but it was exhausting, having to justify wanting to be happy. Daniel pulled her inside, closing the door behind her. Lily was already in bed. It was past 8, and the apartment was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic. I'm sorry, Daniel said. This is my fault. If I were someone from your world, someone with the right pedigree and bank account, they wouldn't be questioning you. If you were someone from my world, I wouldn't want you. I want you specifically because you're not performing success or optimizing every interaction. I want you because you make butterfly pancakes and build blanket forts and count days because they matter. Even if it costs you professionally? It won't. My results speak for themselves. And if the board can't separate my personal life from my professional competence, that's their limitation, not mine. Daniel studied her face, then took her hand and led her to the couch. They sat close together, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat, steady and sure. I need to tell you something, Daniel said quietly. Something I've been avoiding because I didn't want to scare you off. Victoria's stomach tightened. Here it comes, she thought, the revelation that proves Margaret right. Okay, she said, bracing herself. After Emma died, I went to a really dark place. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. My mom had to take Lily for 2 weeks because I was so deep in grief I couldn't take care of her. I thought about ending it. Thought Lily would be better off with my mom permanently. That I was failing her by being so broken. Victoria lifted her head to look at him, but he kept his eyes fixed on the wall across from them. My therapist helped me understand that I was having a normal reaction to abnormal trauma. That grief that profound doesn't mean you're weak or broken, but it scared me how close I came to giving up, and it made me terrified of ever caring about someone that much again, because losing them might actually destroy me. Daniel, let me finish, please. He took a shaky breath. When I met you on that balcony, when you asked me to coffee, I almost said no. Because even then, even after one conversation, I could feel something shifting, could feel myself wanting something I'd convinced myself I didn't deserve. But I said yes because Lily deserved to see her dad try, deserved to see that loss doesn't mean you stop living. He finally looked at her, his eyes bright with emotion. These past 3 weeks have been terrifying, because I'm feeling things I promised myself I wouldn't feel again, because I'm letting you into the life Emma and I built, and it feels like both betrayal and blessing, because I'm falling for you, Victoria, and that means I could lose again, could break again, could fail Lily again. Victoria felt tears streaming down her face. You're not going to lose me, and you're not failing Lily. You're showing her that love is worth the risk. But what if I can't be what you need? What if I'm too damaged, too complicated, too stuck in my grief? Then we figure it out together. We go to therapy. We talk. We give each other grace when it's hard, but we don't run from this because we're scared of pain. We've both already survived the worst. This is the reward for making it through. Daniel pulled her closer, and they sat in silence for a long moment. Finally, he spoke again. There's something else, something practical that's been eating at me. What? Money. I know you don't care about the class difference, but I do. I care that I can't take you to nice restaurants or buy you gifts that match what you're used to. I care that if we keep seeing each other, people will assume I'm using you, and I'll never be able to prove otherwise because the disparity is so massive. I don't want nice restaurants or expensive gifts. But you deserve them. You deserve someone who can match you, who can contribute equally. Equally doesn't mean identically. You contribute in ways that matter more than money. You contribute honesty and presence and a daughter who teaches me to see the world differently. That's worth more than any expensive dinner. People won't see it that way. Then people are wrong. And I'm done living my life based on what people think. Daniel was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, what if we made an agreement about money, clear boundaries so neither of us feels uncomfortable? What kind of agreement? We split everything we do together. Coffee, meals, activities. You don't pay for things for me or Lily unless it's a special occasion like a birthday. I don't accept expensive gifts or loans or any kind of financial support. We keep our finances completely separate so nobody can accuse me of benefiting from your wealth. That seems overly complicated. Maybe, but it protects both of us. It means when we're together, it's about us, not about what you can provide financially. Victoria understood what he was really saying. He needed to maintain his dignity, his sense of self-worth, in a relationship where the financial imbalance was so vast it could swallow everything else. Okay, she said. We split things. We keep finances separate. But Daniel? Yeah? If Lily needs something, medical care, educational opportunities, anything important, you tell me. Not because I'm rich, but because I care about her. Because people who love each other help each other when it matters. That's fair, but only real needs, not wants, and only after we've exhausted other options. Deal. They shook hands solemnly, sealing the agreement, then both started laughing at the absurdity of negotiating financial boundaries while sitting on his second-hand couch in their sock feet. We're really doing this, Daniel said, wonder in his voice. Making it work despite everything that says we shouldn't. We're really doing this. And it's going to be complicated and messy and probably public in ways we both hate. But it's also going to be real. That's worth fighting for. Daniel kissed her then, deeper than the brief kiss in the hallway, and Victoria felt herself falling into the moment, into the possibility of something she'd never let herself want before. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. Lily's going to wake up and find you here, he said. She's going to have questions and expectations and probably demands about what this means. I'm ready for that. For all of it. Even the hair braiding lesson she's been planning? Especially that. I need to expand my skill set beyond quarterly reports and hostile negotiations. They talked late into the night, mapping out logistics and boundaries and hopes. How often they'd see each other, how to handle public appearances. What to tell Lily about the future when the future was so uncertain. Around midnight, Victoria reluctantly said she needed to go home. Daniel walked her to her car, neither of them caring that it was cold and they were both underdressed for the temperature. Tomorrow's Saturday, Daniel said. Lily will be devastated if we don't do pancakes. You're invited if you want. Fair warning, She requested butterfly pancakes specifically because she wants to see if you can help make them. I've never made pancakes in my life. Butterfly-shaped ones seem advanced. Then it's a good thing you're with patient teachers. We'll start you on basic circles and work our way up. What time? 9. We like to sleep in on Saturdays. It's our one morning of the week where we don't set an alarm. I'll be there, with my purple sneakers and absolutely no pancake making skills. Perfect. That's exactly what we need. Victoria drove home with her heart full and her mind quiet for the first time all week. The board meeting didn't matter. Margaret's warnings didn't matter. The newspaper speculation and social media commentary didn't matter. What mattered was tomorrow morning at 9, when she'd show up at a third-floor apartment and learn to make butterfly pancakes with a man who'd survived the worst and his daughter who saw the world in 17 shades of purple. Saturday morning arrived clear and cold. Victoria woke early, despite her plan to sleep in, too excited to stay in bed. She put on jeans and a soft sweater, the purple sneakers, and looked at herself in the mirror. She looked young, happy, hopeful. She looked like someone who was building a life instead of just managing one. At Daniel's apartment, Lily answered the door wearing pajamas covered in cartoon pandas and her hair in the messiest bedhead Victoria had ever seen. "You came!" Lily threw herself at Victoria in a hug. "Daddy said you'd come, but I was worried the fancy newspaper people would scare you away." "Lily," Daniel appeared behind her, also in pajamas. "We talked about the newspaper. It's not scary." "But they said mean things about Victoria dating us, like we're not good enough." Victoria knelt down to Lily's level. "Those people don't know anything about us. They don't know that you're the best duck feeder I've ever seen, or that your dad makes you laugh even on hard days. They're just making up stories because they're bored." That's what Daddy said. "But some kids at school asked if you're my new mom, and I didn't know what to say." Daniel's face had gone pale. "Lily, I told you." "It's okay," Victoria said quickly. "What did you tell them?" "I said you're my friend, who's also Daddy's friend, and that grown-ups make things complicated, but it's not complicated, really. You just like spending time with us." "That's exactly right. And whatever happens in the future, whatever our relationship becomes, you'll always know about it first. Okay? No surprises. Just honesty." "Okay. Now come make pancakes. I want to see if you're as bad at cooking as you said." The kitchen was small and warm and smelled like coffee. Daniel had already mixed the batter, and now he showed Victoria how to pour it onto the griddle in a way that might, with luck and generous interpretation, resemble a butterfly. Her first attempt looked more like a blob with wings. Her second was better but lopsided. Her third, made with Lily's hands guiding hers, actually looked recognizable. "Perfect," Lily declared. "You're learning. Soon you'll be able to make them by yourself and surprise Daddy." They ate breakfast together at the small kitchen table, Lily chattering about her week and her plans for the park. Victoria listened, asked questions, and felt herself settling into the rhythm of their Saturday morning in a way that felt both foreign and perfectly right. This was her life now. Purple sneakers and butterfly pancakes and a 6-year-old's approval. The board meeting felt like it had happened in a different universe, to a different version of herself. After breakfast, as they cleaned up, Daniel's phone rang. His expression shifted when he saw the caller ID. "It's my boss, on a Saturday." "That's never good." He answered, and Victoria watched his face change from curious to shocked to quietly furious. "I understand," he said finally, his voice tight. "Monday morning. I'll be there." He hung up and stood very still, his hands gripping the counter. "Daniel?" Victoria asked. "What's wrong?" "I'm being transferred to a different region, 6-hour drive from here. They're calling it a promotion, more money, better territory. But the timing is pretty convenient, don't you think? Right after the newspaper article. Right after everyone at work started giving me grief about dating the CEO." Victoria felt cold spreading through her chest. "They can't do that. It's retaliation." "It's a promotion, better pay, better benefits. How do I prove it's retaliation when it looks like a reward?" "You fight it. You file a complaint. I can't fight it, Victoria. I'm at-will employment. They can transfer me or fire me for any reason or no reason. And if I make waves, if I accuse them of discrimination or retaliation, I become the difficult employee nobody wants to hire. I have Lily to think about. I can't risk my career for pride." Lily had gone very quiet, her eyes moving between them. Are we moving? She asked in a small voice. I don't know, sweetheart. We need to figure some things out. But what about our Sundays? What about Victoria and the playground and the ducks? Daniel pulled Lily into a hug, his face pressed against her hair. Over her head, he met Victoria's eyes, and she saw defeat there. Saw him calculating the impossible mathematics of maintaining a relationship across 6 hours of highway, of uprooting Lily from her school and her grandmother and the life they'd built from grief, of choosing between his job and whatever this fragile thing between them might become. And Victoria understood with sudden, painful clarity that this was the real test, not board meetings or newspaper articles or financial agreements. This was where they'd discover if what they were building was strong enough to withstand the world's active resistance to their happiness. This was where they'd find out if love was enough. Victoria sat on Daniel's couch while he took Lily to her room to explain what a transfer might mean. Through the thin walls, she could hear Lily's muffled questions, Daniel's patient answers, then silence that felt heavier than words. She stared at her hands, at the purple sneakers that had seemed like such a promise 3 weeks ago, and felt the familiar weight of impossible choices settling onto her shoulders. She could fix this. One phone call to Daniel's employer, one carefully worded conversation about corporate partnerships and HVAC contracts for Hale Technologies' 17 buildings. She could make the transfer disappear, could protect Daniel's job and their fragile relationship with the same strategic thinking that had built her company. But that would prove Margaret right, would confirm every assumption about their relationship being transactional, about Victoria using her power to manipulate Daniel's life, about him being unable to stand on his own in her world. It would save them from this crisis while destroying the foundation of honesty and equality they'd been trying to build. Daniel emerged from Lily's room 20 minutes later, his eyes red-rimmed, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion that went deeper than one difficult conversation. She wants to know if she can bring her light-up shoes to the new place, he said, sitting heavily beside Victoria. If there will be a playground, if you'll be able to visit sometimes. What did you tell her? That we'll figure it out. That change is hard, but we've survived hard things before. That I love her more than any job or any place. He rubbed his face with both hands. She cried, asked why we can't just stay here where things are good. And I didn't have a good answer because the truth is too complicated for a 6-year-old to understand. The truth being that my boss doesn't like me dating someone out of my league, that it makes him uncomfortable that his technician is in the newspaper with a billionaire CEO, that moving me 6 hours away solves his problem while looking like he's doing me a favor. Victoria took his hand, lacing their fingers together. What do you want to do? I don't know. The logical choice is to take the transfer. Better money means better stability for Lily. New territory means nobody knows about us. No gossip or judgment. Clean slate. He looked at their joined hands. But taking it means leaving you. Means turning our relationship into weekend visits and phone calls, and slowly drifting apart because long distance is hard even without a 6-year-old's schedule to work around. So don't take it. And do what? Quit and find another job in a market where every HVAC company knows each other and word travels fast? Risk being blacklisted because I refused a promotion? How do I explain that to Lily when we can't afford her school supplies or her birthday party? You let me help. Daniel pulled his hand away, standing abruptly. No, that's exactly what we agreed we wouldn't do. I'm not taking your money, Victoria. I'm not becoming the kept man everyone already assumes I am. It's not like that. It is exactly like that. The second I let you solve my problems with your checkbook, we become what Margaret warned you about, what my coworkers joke about, what every article implies. He paced the small living room, his frustration evident in every movement. I need to stand on my own, need to provide for my daughter without your wealth propping me up. Even if standing on your own means losing this, losing us, maybe us was never sustainable. Maybe we were kidding ourselves that we could bridge such different worlds. Maybe this transfer is the universe telling us to stop before we hurt each other worse. Victoria felt something crack in her chest. Is that what you want? To give up? I want to not feel like I'm failing at everything. I want to give Lily stability without uprooting her life. I want to be with you without everyone questioning my motives. But I can't have all of those things, so I have to choose. And you're choosing the job. Daniel stopped pacing, his back to her. I'm choosing my daughter. I'm choosing the option that doesn't make me dependent on someone else's money or power or connections. I'm choosing dignity over comfort. There's no dignity in running away. He turned and she saw anger flash across his face. I'm not running away. I'm making a practical decision based on the reality of my situation. Not everyone has the luxury of choosing love over financial security. But you do have that luxury. You have options. You just won't take them because your pride won't let you accept help. It's not pride. It's survival. The only thing I have left that Emma didn't give me, that my mom didn't provide, that my job doesn't define, is my ability to make my own choices. If I let you fix this, I lose that too. I become the project, the charity case, the man who can't handle his own life. They stood in charged silence, the air between them thick with hurt and frustration and the terrible mathematics of impossible choices. Victoria understood what he was saying, understood the fierce need to maintain autonomy in a relationship where the power imbalance was so vast. But understanding didn't make it hurt less, didn't make his choice to prioritize pride over partnership feel less like rejection. I should go, she said quietly. Victoria. No, you're right. You need to make your own choices. And I need to respect them, even when I think they're wrong, even when they break my heart. She grabbed her jacket and headed for the door. Daniel followed, catching her arm gently. Please don't leave like this. Not angry. I'm not angry. I'm sad. I'm sad that we found something real and we're letting it go because the world made it too hard. I'm sad that your pride matters more than fighting for us. I'm sad that I finally wanted something for myself instead of for the company, and it's still not enough. It's not about want. It's about what's right for Lily. Don't hide behind Lily. This is about you being too scared to let someone help you, too proud to admit you can't solve everything alone, too convinced you don't deserve happiness unless you earn it entirely by yourself. The words hit their mark. Daniel flinched, his hand dropping from her arm. Maybe you're right, he said. Maybe I am too proud, but at least my pride won't abandon me when things get difficult. At least it won't get bored and move on to the next interesting project. You think that's what I'd do? I think you're Victoria Hale. You solve problems and move forward. You don't get stuck in messy, complicated situations where there's no clear solution. And this, us, it's the definition of messy and complicated. Victoria felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. You don't know me at all if you think I'd give up that easily. But you know what? If you're already convinced I'll abandon you, then maybe you're right. Maybe we should end this now before we hurt each other worse. She left then, walking quickly down the stairs and out to her car before the tears could start. She sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel, trying to breathe through the tightness in her chest. Through the third-floor window, she could see Daniel's silhouette, standing motionless, watching her leave. 3 weeks. That's all it had taken for her to fall for a man who made butterfly pancakes and counted days because they mattered. 3 weeks to imagine a different life, one with purple sneakers and playground Sundays, and a 6-year-old who judged people by their shoes. 3 weeks to believe she could have something real. And now it was over. Not with drama or betrayal, but with the quiet defeat of two people whose worlds simply didn't fit together, no matter how much they wanted them to. Victoria drove home through blurred vision, her phone buzzing repeatedly with texts she couldn't read. She made it to her penthouse before the sobs started, before the careful control she'd maintained finally shattered. She sat on her pristine couch in her perfectly curated space and cried for the first time since her father's funeral 8 years ago. Sunday passed in numb emptiness. Victoria tried to work but couldn't focus, tried to run but couldn't make her legs move. She sat at her window watching the city, thinking about a playground she'd never visit again, ducks she'd never feed, a little girl who'd asked if Victoria would be her new mom. Monday morning arrived with brutal clarity. Victoria, dressed in her sharpest suit, applied her most professional makeup, and walked into Hale Technologies ready to bury herself in work. If she couldn't have love, she still had this. Still had quarterly earnings and strategic initiatives and the empire her father had built. Margaret was waiting in her office, concern evident on her usually calculating face. I heard about the transfer, Margaret said. I'm sorry. I know I warned you, but I didn't want to be right. You were right about everything. Class differences matter. Complications matter. Sometimes practical concerns outweigh feelings. So it's over? It's over. Margaret nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think he made the wrong choice. I think he let fear and pride destroy something real, but I also think you're better off finding out now, before you invested more of yourself. Victoria wanted to argue, wanted to defend Daniel's decision, but she was too tired, too hollowed out by grief that felt disproportionate to a 3-week relationship, but somehow perfectly matched to the depth of what she'd lost. The morning passed in meetings and decisions and the comfortable rhythm of corporate leadership. Victoria was giving a presentation to her executive team when her assistant interrupted, something she never did unless it was an emergency. "I'm sorry," Sarah said, her face pale, "but there's someone here to see you. He says it's urgent. He says he brought his daughter." Victoria's heart stopped. Through the glass wall of the conference room, she could see Daniel in the lobby, Lily holding his hand, both of them looking small and out of place among the sleek furniture and modern art. "Excuse me," Victoria said to her team. "We'll resume in 15 minutes." She walked to the lobby on shaking legs, aware of every employee watching, every whispered comment, every assumption being made. Daniel saw her coming and straightened, his free hand clutching something she couldn't identify. "Hi," he said, his voice rough. "I know I should have called first, but Lily insisted, and when I tried to talk myself out of coming, she threatened to take the bus here herself." Victoria looked down at Lily, who was wearing her light-up shoes and a purple jacket Victoria had never seen before. "I told Daddy he was being stupid," Lily announced loudly enough that the entire lobby could hear. "I told him that grown-ups who love each other don't give up just because things are hard. That's what he always tells me about missing Mommy, so I said he had to come apologize and fix things." "Lily," Daniel said gently, "we talked about this. Sometimes adults can't fix things just because they want to." "But you didn't even try. You just decided it was too hard and gave up. That's not what brave people do." Several employees had stopped pretending to work, openly watching the drama unfold. Victoria felt her professional facade cracking, felt the careful distance she maintained threatening to collapse entirely. "Maybe we should talk somewhere private," she said. "No," Daniel said firmly. "If I'm doing this, I'm doing it here. I'm done hiding, done pretending this isn't the most important thing in my life." He took a breath, and Victoria saw his hands trembling. "I turned down the transfer, called my boss this morning and told him I couldn't take it, that I had too much keeping me here. Daniel, your job, I quit. Gave my 2 weeks' notice. I have some savings, enough to cover a couple months while I find something else. It's terrifying and stupid and completely impractical, but it's also the right choice, because Lily's right. Brave people don't give up just because things are hard." Victoria felt her throat tighten. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let fear make my choices. I'm sorry I used pride as an excuse to push you away. I'm sorry I convinced myself you'd give up on us when the truth is, I was already giving up on myself." He held up what he'd been clutching, a folder. "I made a plan. Practical steps for how we make this work. Job applications at 3 different companies. Budget projections. A timeline for finding new employment. I'm not asking you to fix my problems. I'm asking you to give me a chance to solve them while being with you. You don't have to prove anything, but I do. I have to prove to you that I'm serious about this, that I'm not just the broken widower you felt sorry for on a balcony, that I can be a real partner, not a project." He opened the folder, showing her pages of meticulous planning. "I calculated that I can afford 3 months without work if I'm careful. That gives me time to find the right job, not just the first one. And in the meantime, I can be the stay-at-home parent I've been trying to be while working 50-hour weeks. I can be present for Lily in ways I haven't been able to since Emma died. What if you don't find something in 3 months? Then I reassess, but I do it while being honest with you, while letting you be part of the decision instead of shutting you out because I'm scared." Lily tugged on Victoria's sleeve. "Are you going to forgive him? Because he's been really sad since Saturday, and I had to make him 3 different breakfasts before he ate anything, and he needs you to say it's okay." Victoria looked at this man who'd quit his job to choose her, who'd swallowed his pride to stand in her corporate lobby and apologize in front of witnesses, who'd let his 6-year-old daughter drag him here because she understood what he was too afraid to believe. She looked at Lily, fierce and honest and absolutely certain that love was worth fighting for. "It's okay," Victoria said, her voice breaking. "More than okay." Daniel's shoulders sagged with relief. Yeah, yeah. But we're doing this my way now. No more making decisions alone. No more pushing each other away when it gets hard. We're partners, which means we face things together. Partners, Daniel repeated, testing the word. I like that. Good, because I have some ideas about your job situation. Victoria, not fixing it for you, just information you might not have considered. Hale Technologies needs a new facilities manager. The current one is retiring in 3 months. It's a salaried position with benefits, and it would require someone who understands HVAC systems and building maintenance and vendor management. Daniel's eyes widened. You're offering me a job? I'm telling you about an opening. You'd still have to interview, still have to prove you're qualified, still have to earn it, but I can make sure your resume gets to the right people. The rest is up to you. But people will say, let them say whatever they want. You're qualified. You have 15 years of experience. And yes, you're dating the CEO, but that doesn't make you less capable. It just means you have to work twice as hard to prove yourself. Can you handle that? Daniel looked down at Lily, then back at Victoria. I can handle anything if it means we get to stay. Then apply for the job, interview, show them what you can do. And if you get it on your own merit. If you don't, we figure out plan B together. Lily was bouncing on her toes, her light-up shoes flashing. Does this mean you're back together? Does this mean we get to do Sundays again? If your dad's willing to give me another chance after I said some pretty harsh things on Saturday. You were right about most of them, Daniel said quietly. I was scared. I was hiding behind pride and Lily and practical concerns because admitting I wanted this, wanted you, felt too vulnerable. Felt like I was betraying Emma by being happy again. And now? Now I think Emma would tell me to stop being an idiot. She always said I overthought everything, that I needed to trust my gut more. My gut says this is real, says you're worth the risk, says Lily deserves to see her dad choose love over fear. Victoria felt tears threatening again, but this time they were the good kind, the kind that came from hope instead of loss. Well then, she said, I guess we're doing this. Officially, publicly, messily. All of it, Daniel agreed. Lily threw her arms around both of them, creating an awkward 3-person hug in the middle of Hale Technologies' pristine lobby, while employees tried not to stare and failing completely. Can we go to the playground now? Lily asked. I want to celebrate with the ducks. Victoria checked her watch. She had the executive team waiting in the conference room, had 17 more meetings scheduled before 5, had a company to run and responsibilities that couldn't be ignored. Actually, she said, I have a better idea. 20 minutes later, Victoria stood in front of her executive team with Daniel and Lily beside her. I want to introduce you to 2 people who've reminded me what actually matters, she said. This is Daniel Carter and his daughter Lily. Daniel's been in HVAC for 15 years and will be interviewing for our facilities manager position. Lily is 6 and has taught me more about leadership in 3 weeks than most business schools teach in 2 years. Margaret looked stunned. The CFO was trying not to smile. The head of operations was openly grinning. We talk a lot about work-life balance in this company, Victoria continued, about creating sustainable cultures and supporting our people. But I've been terrible at modeling that. I've worked 80-hour weeks and sacrificed everything personal for professional gain, and I'm done with that. So moving forward, you'll see some changes. I'll be leaving at 5 on Fridays. I won't schedule meetings on Sunday. And I'll be bringing my personal life to work sometimes because the division between the two has been making me miserable. What brought this on? The CFO asked. Honestly, meeting someone who lives his values instead of just talking about them. Someone who makes his daughter butterfly pancakes and builds blanket forts and feeds ducks gently so they don't get aggressive. Someone who reminded me that success without happiness is just expensive emptiness. She looked at Daniel, who was holding Lily's hand and looking at Victoria like she was performing magic. So if anyone has concerns about my judgment or my focus, I'm happy to address them. But know that this isn't a distraction from my work. It's what makes my work sustainable. It's what keeps me human instead of just a position on an org chart. The room was silent for a long moment. Then the head of operations started clapping. The CFO joined in. One by one, the entire executive team applauded. And Victoria felt something loosen in her chest that she hadn't known was tight. After the meeting, after Daniel and Lily had left with promises of playground time later, Margaret pulled Victoria aside. That took courage, she said. Real courage. Not the boardroom kind, but the kind that actually matters. I thought you'd be against this. I was wrong. About him, about you, about what vulnerability looks like in leadership. I'm sorry for the assumptions I made. Thank you, that means a lot. But Victoria, if he hurts you, if he turns out to be using you, if any of my concerns prove valid, I reserve the right to say I told you so. Fair enough, but you'll be waiting a long time. The next 2 months passed in a blur of change and growth, and learning to merge two very different lives. Daniel interviewed for the facilities manager position and got it on his own merit, impressing the hiring committee with his technical knowledge and practical problem solving. His first day at Hale Technologies was terrifying and wonderful, navigating the strange reality of working for the company his girlfriend ran while maintaining professional boundaries and proving he'd earned his place. Lily started asking Victoria to her school events, the winter concert, the art show, the pizza party for reading achievements. Victoria went to all of them, sitting beside Daniel's mother and learning what it meant to be part of a family that showed up for each other's small victories. They had their first real fight in January, when Victoria wanted to pay for Lily's summer camp, and Daniel refused on principle. They fought about money and pride and what helping meant, and eventually found a compromise where they'd split the cost because partners shared expenses for things they both valued. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. They had their first public appearance together in February at a charity gala where Victoria introduced Daniel as her partner and endured the whispers and stares with her head held high. Daniel wore a suit he'd bought specifically for the occasion, not borrowed, not uncomfortable, and held Victoria's hand through every judgment and assumption. When a reporter asked about their relationship, about how they bridged such different backgrounds, Victoria had smiled. We don't bridge them. We honor them. We bring our whole selves to this relationship. His experience as a father and widower and working-class technician, my experience as a CEO and daughter, and someone relearning how to be human. And we figure it out day by day with honesty and patience and purple sneakers. The reporter had looked confused about the purple sneakers, but Lily, who was eavesdropping nearby, had understood perfectly. By March, they'd established new routines that blended both their lives. Saturday pancakes at Daniel's apartment, Sunday playgrounds with weekly duck feeding, Wednesday dinners where Lily did homework while Victoria and Daniel cooked together in his small kitchen, Friday movie nights that sometimes included blanket forts and sometimes didn't, depending on Lily's mood. Victoria's penthouse remained mostly empty. She spent more time at Daniel's modest apartment than her own pristine space, preferring the warmth and mess and constant noise of their life together. She'd started keeping clothes there, a toothbrush, her running shoes. Daniel had given her a key, a gesture that felt more significant than any corporate acquisition she'd ever negotiated. They talked about the future sometimes, carefully, aware of Lily listening even when she pretended not to, about what it would mean to eventually live together, to blend their households, to make official what was already feeling permanent. Daniel was cautious, protective of Lily's emotional security. Victoria was patient, understanding that some things couldn't be rushed. Then came the night in late March when everything changed. Victoria was at Daniel's apartment, helping Lily with a school project about family trees, when Lily asked a question that stopped them both. If you and Daddy got married, would you be on my family tree? Would you be my family for real? Daniel froze, his eyes meeting Victoria's across the table. They hadn't talked about marriage, hadn't even said the word out loud. It felt too soon, too presumptuous, too weighted with expectations and Emma's memory and the complexity of blending lives. That's a big question, sweetheart, Daniel said carefully, but it's important because Sophie at school says you're only real family if you're related by blood or married. And I want Victoria to be real family, not just Daddy's girlfriend. Sophie doesn't know what she's talking about, Victoria said gently. Family is about who shows up, who loves you, who chooses to be there even when it's hard. Blood and marriage certificates don't make family. Choice does. But you choose us, right? You choose to be here? Every day, absolutely. Then you're family, real family, and I'm putting you on my family tree. That night, after Lily was asleep, Victoria and Daniel sat on his couch in the quiet apartment, both thinking about the same thing. She wants you to be official, Daniel said. Wants the security of knowing you're permanent. What do you want? I want to give her that security. Want to give us that security, but I also know it's fast. We've been together barely 4 months. Most people would say we're rushing. Most people aren't us. Daniel turned to face her fully. I love you. I've been too scared to say it, worried it would complicate things or make expectations impossible. But I love you, Victoria. I love how you show up for Lily. I love how you make me want to be braver. I love that you wear purple sneakers and build blanket forts and feed ducks with the seriousness of someone negotiating a corporate merger. I love you too. I love how you see me instead of the CEO. I love how you make pancakes shaped like butterflies because it makes your daughter smile. I love that you quit your job to fight for us. I love your honesty and your grief and your fierce determination to do right by Lily. They sat in silence for a moment, letting the words settle. So what do we do about it? Daniel asked. We figure it out together, like we do everything else. But Victoria knew what she wanted. Knew it with the same certainty she'd felt on the balcony 4 months ago when a stranger's honesty had cracked open her carefully controlled world. She wanted this. All of it. The mess and the complications, and the 6-year-old who judged everything by arbitrary criteria. She wanted Saturday pancakes and Wednesday dinners, and a man who counted days because they mattered. She wanted a family. 2 weeks later, on a Tuesday night that was unremarkable, except for what it would become, Victoria showed up at Daniel's apartment with a small box in her pocket and a speech she'd rehearsed 17 times. Daniel answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt that had seen better days, his hair sticking up in 3 different directions because Lily had been practicing braiding again. You look nervous, he said, stepping aside to let her in. I am nervous. Where's Lily? At my mom's for the night. Sleepover. Why? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's right, actually, which is terrifying in its own way. Victoria walked into the living room, to the couch where they'd watched movies and had difficult conversations and learned to be honest with each other. Daniel followed, concern evident in his expression. Victoria, you're scaring me. What's going on? She pulled out the box before she could talk herself out of it, opened it to reveal a simple silver band, elegant but not ostentatious, chosen specifically because it wouldn't scream wealth or make Daniel uncomfortable. 4 months ago, I was standing on a balcony wondering if anyone would notice if I disappeared, she said. I had everything I thought I wanted, money, power, success, but I was hollow inside. Then I heard your voice talking about butterfly pancakes, and something shifted. You saw my exhaustion, I saw your strength, and we both saw a possibility neither of us was looking for. Daniel was staring at the ring, his face unreadable. I know it's fast, Victoria continued. I know we're still figuring things out. I know there are complications and challenges and 1,000 reasons to wait. But I also know I want to spend my life with you and Lily. I want Saturday pancakes to be our permanent tradition, not just something we do while we're dating. I want to be on Lily's family tree officially. I want to choose you every day for the rest of my days. Victoria, let me finish, please. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. I'm not asking you to rush into something you're not ready for. I'm just asking if you'd consider a future where we make this official, where we stop calling this dating and start calling it what it is, building a life together. Daniel sat down heavily, his eyes never leaving the ring. You're proposing to me. I'm proposing the idea of being proposed to, or proposing that we propose together, or, she laughed shakily. I'm terrible at this. I can negotiate billion-dollar contracts, but I can't figure out how to ask the man I love to marry me. You love me. I said that 2 weeks ago on this same couch. I know. But hearing it again in the context of marriage and forever, it hits different. Good different or bad different? Daniel finally looked up at her and she saw tears streaming down his face. Good different. Terrifying but good. Because I want that too. Want the official family and the permanent traditions and the life we're building. Want to wake up every morning knowing you're choosing us. Is that a yes? It's a yes to someday. A yes to the possibility. A yes to talking to Lily about what this would mean and making sure she's ready. A yes to figuring out the details together. He wiped his eyes. But I can't take the ring yet. Not until I have one to give you. Not until we do this as equals. Daniel, I know you don't care about things being equal financially, but this matters to me. If we're getting engaged, I want to propose too. Want to give you something that represents what you mean to me. Can you give me 2 weeks? 2 weeks to figure out how to do this right? Victoria closed the box, slipping it back into her pocket. 2 weeks. But Daniel, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be anything traditional. It just has to be honest. I know. Trust me. Always. They spent the rest of the evening talking about the future, about when they'd tell Lily, how they'd handle the inevitable media attention, what kind of wedding they might want. Small, they agreed. Meaningful, focused on the people who mattered instead of the performance. 2 weeks later, Daniel picked Victoria up for their regular Wednesday dinner with a nervousness that reminded her of their first coffee date. But instead of driving to his apartment, he drove to the waterfront, to the playground where they'd fed ducks and built the foundation of their relationship. "We're having dinner at the playground?" Victoria asked. "Not quite. Come on." He led her to the pond where a blanket was spread on the grass and a picnic basket waited. Simple food, sandwiches and fruit and fancy cookies with gold on top, like the ones he'd brought home from the summit. "Lily helped me plan this," Daniel said as they sat down. "She insisted on the cookies, said they were symbolic of where we started." "This is perfect." They ate and talked and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades Lily would have called friendship colors. When the light started fading, Daniel pulled out a small box of his own. "I can't compete with what you can afford," he said. "Can't give you diamonds or platinum or anything that matches your net worth, but I can give you something honest, something that represents who we are." He opened the box to reveal a ring made of braided silver, delicate and intricate and clearly handmade. "I made it myself," Daniel said. "Watched YouTube videos and took a weekend metalworking class and probably did it all wrong. But it's mine. It's us. It's imperfect and handmade and real." Victoria felt tears streaming down her face. "It's beautiful. So here's my proposal. Not down on one knee because we're sitting on a blanket and my knees are terrible. But from my whole heart, Victoria Hale, will you marry me? Will you let me be your partner in business and life? Will you let Lily and me be your family officially and permanently? Will you keep wearing purple sneakers and feeding ducks gently and showing up for our messy, complicated, beautiful life?" "Yes. To all of it. Always yes." Daniel slipped the handmade ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, which he credited to Lily secretly measuring one of Victoria's other rings, and then he pulled out the box she'd given him 2 weeks ago. "Your turn," he said. Victoria took out the silver band she'd chosen and slid it onto his finger, both of them crying now, both of them laughing at crying, both of them overwhelmed by the reality of choosing each other permanently. They announced their engagement at Lily's 7th birthday party in April, partly because Lily threatened to tell everyone herself if they didn't, and partly because it felt right to share the news with the family they'd built. Daniel's mother, Lily's school friends, Marcus and Teresa from the playground, and a small group of Hale Technologies employees who'd become genuine friends. Lily wore a shirt that said, "I made this happen," in glitter letters, taking full credit for their relationship. Nobody argued with her. The media coverage was predictably intense. Headlines ranged from billionaire CEO to wed HVAC technician to modern fairy tale or corporate disaster. Victoria and Daniel ignored most of it, focusing instead on the logistics of merging households and planning a wedding that felt authentic to both of them. They married in September, 6 months after the proposal, in the same park where they'd fed ducks and built their foundation. Small ceremony, 50 guests, nothing fancy or performed. Lily was the maid of honor, wearing purple from head to toe and carrying a basket of flower petals she'd personally selected by color. Victoria wore a simple dress she'd found at a boutique Lily had approved. Daniel wore the suit from Emma's memorial service because Lily insisted Emma would want to be part of the day somehow, and wearing something connected to her memory felt right. The ceremony was officiated by Daniel's mother, who'd gotten ordained online specifically for this purpose. She spoke about love surviving loss, about choosing happiness after grief, about building new families from the pieces of broken ones. When it came time for the vows, Lily insisted on going first. "I'm making a promise too," she announced to the assembled guests. "I promise to let you be married even when it's annoying. I promise to remember that you love each other even when you're being gross. And I promise to keep teaching you important stuff like the right way to feed ducks and which purple is the friendship purple." The crowd laughed. Victoria was crying. Daniel was definitely crying. Then Daniel said his vows, simple and honest. I promise to keep making butterfly pancakes. I promise to build blanket forts when life gets hard. I promise to feed ducks gently and wear purple sneakers when appropriate. I promise to see you, really see you, every day for the rest of our lives. I promise to let you help me when I'm too proud to ask. And I promise to choose you every single day in all the small ways that matter. Victoria's vows were equally simple. I promise to show up, to be present instead of performing, to prioritize pancakes over board meetings when it matters. I promise to honor Emma's memory by loving you and Lily with everything I have. I promise to keep learning how to be part of a family. And I promise to choose you every single day, even when it's terrifying and complicated and nothing like what I planned. They exchanged rings, his handmade band and her simple one, and kissed while Lily cheered and the small crowd applauded, and somewhere, Victoria thought, Emma was smiling at the life they'd built from the ruins of loss. The reception was at a small restaurant near the waterfront, family-style seating and comfort food, and none of the corporate Polish Victoria's world usually demanded. Daniel's co-workers mingled with Victoria's executive team. Lily ran between tables with Marcus and the other children, her light-up shoes flashing with every step. Margaret caught Victoria alone near the end of the evening. I was wrong about everything, Margaret said simply. About him, about you, about what this relationship meant. I'm sorry for the assumptions and the warnings and the skepticism. You were trying to protect me. I understand that. Still, he's good for you. You're lighter now, more human, better at your job because you have a life outside of it. I am, thanks to him and Lily. Just promise me one thing? What? Keep being this version of yourself. The one who wears purple sneakers and leaves at 5 on Fridays. The one who brings her whole self to work instead of just the CEO. We need that. The company needs that. Victoria hugged Margaret, surprising them both. I promise. Later, as the evening wound down, Victoria found herself on the restaurant's balcony, a small outdoor space overlooking the harbor. Daniel joined her, Lily asleep on his shoulder, her purple flower girl dress rumpled and her face peaceful. We did it, Daniel said quietly. Actually did it. Built a family from pieces, made something real from a balcony conversation. Think we'll be okay, long term? I think we'll fight sometimes. I think money and grief and complicated logistics will be hard. I think integrating our worlds will be an ongoing challenge. Victoria looked at him, at their daughter sleeping peacefully, at the life they'd chosen. But I also think we'll feed ducks together every Sunday, make butterfly pancakes every Saturday, build blanket forts when the world feels too heavy. And that'll be enough. More than enough. They stood together watching the city lights reflect on the water. 3 people who'd found each other in the space between their separate worlds and built something entirely new. No fairy tale excess, no perfect lives, just honesty and purple sneakers and the fierce determination to choose each other every day. Behind them, through the restaurant windows, their families were laughing together. Daniel's mother telling stories about his childhood, Victoria's executive team learning the rules of duck feeding from Lily's school friends, 2 worlds learning to overlap and merge and become something greater than the sum of their parts. And somewhere in the complicated mathematics of love and loss and second chances, Emma's memory wove through everything they'd built, not as a ghost haunting their happiness, but as a foundation that made their love possible. She'd taught Daniel how to love fiercely and choose bravely. She'd given them Lily, who'd taught them both to see the world in 17 shades of purple and judge people by the truth of their actions instead of the polish of their presentation. This was their family now, imperfect and blended and real. And it was more than enough. It was everything.